We help busy over 40s get in shape in 30 days with only 30 minutes of kettlebell training per week. Grab your free ebook to find out how we do this. Type yes in the comments or check the link in our bio or description.
Ladies and gentlemen, look at the distinguished gentlemen of the Kettlebell Club right here in front of me. We have an awesome episode of the Kettle Nights podcast. I have with me Emilio Joubert. I have Pat Damiano and Eric knows Kettlebell Spectre in the house, ladies and gentlemen. So we are having a Kettle Nights Roundtable, as we call it, where we just want to chop it up and talk about kettlebells. The last one I did was in 2021 with Steve Carter, Luca Kurcha, and Sean Mosen. And I stopped doing them. I don't know why, I just stopped. And then I was like, I had, as some of you regular viewers and listeners of the podcast know, I had conversations with each of these distinguished gentlemen. And I was like, hey, the energy is so nice. Let's chop it up together. So, gentlemen, welcome to the podcast once again.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, super exciting, man. Super exciting.
Let's get the ball rolling. So, New Year's resolutions, my friends. Before we started recording, we were like, hey, should we talk about it? And then Emilio brought something up like, yeah, now is the time to get started. And Eric was like, and I'm completely on the other side. So, hey, Emilio, come on.
Yeah, I can start. So
it's your
my
stage.
point was that I found that like at the new year, like I didn't have a big boom in terms of business or people reaching out to me about fitness stuff. I think it took people a couple of weeks, but you have to remember, I'm a personal trainer and I do online coaching and online programming, right? So like people are usually coming to me for the most part if they're having a hard time figuring something out. And I feel like I was a little surprised. I was like, oh man, maybe I'm not doing my marketing right or something. And then I like woke up Monday of this week to like a bunch of inquiries about it. And so I feel like a lot of people now are trying to get into it after they're realizing, oh, I'm a little confused or I don't fully know. Even like, asking for like group classes and stuff like that type of organization. So I feel like now would be helpful for a lot of people sort of looking for that next step to get that reaffirmation that like you are valid for trying to get into it now. But I was actually really curious about what Eric was thinking.
Yeah, me too.
He said the opposite.
Yeah, what's up with Eric?
Well, so I do online and in person too. I focus more on the online stuff. And in terms of traffic, I noticed there was a lot more generated. So right now it's January 18th. There was a lot more generated 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I actually heard a statistic recently about pizza shops. Everyone like nationally, everyone is like, oh, I'm going to eat better. At the new year, I want to have like a more healthy diet. And so pizza sales decline in the first two weeks of the year. But one of their biggest days of the year is 3 weeks, like clockwork, 3 weeks after the new year. People
Wow.
I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to get a pizza. And they're like,
Well, because everybody goes cold turkey, right?
Screw it. Everybody like, screw it.
And I think the
thing.
same pattern sort of happened with me, at least, where it's like everyone is jumping in at the end of the year, at the beginning of it. And now, for me, at least, it's slowed down. But that's interesting that that's not the case with you.
I think, and I'm sorry, Pat, I don't know if you have any thoughts about it, but I'll close it up on mine. I feel like I come off very abrasive in some ways. So, like, I'm not really getting the, like you see me Zercher deadlifting. Like, you're not going to be like a random person, like, oh, yeah, I gotta listen to this guy. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like you kind of, like, need to follow me for a while and then get it. So I feel like I sort of get the people that are more interested in, like, not to come after your services or anything, but they're like, oh, this guy's got like a slightly different perspective.
Hey, we're all competing. These are bloody waters, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't even know if that's true. I feel like the fitness industry is so big, like that. There's
of course,
I don't know
of
if
course,
there's that much
of
competition.
course.
There's so many people out there, like technically it's like there's just so many people out there. But Eric, I was curious on your end because I'm kind of in the middle of both of you guys. So. My personal training is basically, it is where it is. That stays the same. I don't get many new inquiries because I'm not really taking any right now. But my online stuff was much bigger this past week than it was in the beginning of the year. But I'm curious, Eric, if maybe you were running like New Year's sales or something like that and people kind of jumped on it there. Also, something that is kind of interesting to think about is New Year's Day was a Monday. So like nobody woke up that Monday like super not hungover and was like, I'm going to start now. Point. Like most people like let it go, and then like on the 8th they probably tried to start things, and then good chance that a week went by, they were like, this isn't working or whatever. But I think that slight delay or New Year's Day being on a Monday is just like a weird caveat to this year specifically, at least.
Yeah, I didn't do any sales. I purposely didn't want to promote New Year, New You, because I only want clients who are serious about it. And
yeah,
I think that crowd I mean, listen, if anyone's listening to this and they did make a change on the New Year's, like good for you. But like, I think a lot of people tend to fail because they don't have that intrinsic motivation or desire. And so that's why they fail after a few weeks. And so I'm really only interested in the like more serious clients. And so I didn't want to just be like, hey, 50, 75% off, like when you join at the New Year.
Yeah, like you weren't trying to make the quick turnover, that they're going to lose them.
Yeah.
You wanted like the longer lasting clients.
Yeah, and it's better for both of us at the end of the day, right? If they're serious and I'm serious. So yeah. But I don't know. Maybe it's something I should have done. And we could talk about that if you want, like marketing techniques.
Yeah. I'm sure we could dig really deep into that, but it's funny because as I was doing that, right? I was doing like 50% if you bought the entire year up front. But it was, so it's like kind of in the middle where it's like, you obviously have to commit, but you're going to get a nice deal if you do commit. But then also it's like everybody else is doing the same thing. Like, did mine just get like brushed away with everything? Because there's just so much other stuff. There's
tough. A lot of like a lack of information in this world, I think, especially since a lot of us coaches, our business is a business of one. And what data is really out there? It's not like people are taking polls and like publishing. There's information on gyms out there that I've looked up because I'm just curious about the economics of that sort of stuff. But what we all do, I mean, Gregor, yours is kind of different. I don't know, Pat, do you have a YouTube? I think you have a YouTube channel, right?
Technically, yeah, but I don't really do that much with it.
Okay. Emilio, do you have one? Just out of curiosity?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, besides stuff like my clips like, for video games.
Emilio, no, I don't do that. I don't do that.
I don't have one either, but I'm just saying that like what we do is different from like brick and mortar gyms. And so whatever data you find out there about that is going to be different from
I would say some of my perspective, because I run the programming for a brick and mortar gym down in Brooklyn. And a lot of what I'm saying is also influenced by there as well. Like I actually noticed for my personal business, 720, and then also for Lapine in Brooklyn, our spike has been this week, like tons of new signups this week.
Gotcha.
So I think it's a really interesting phenomena because, like I said, we're like super focused on like a demographic of people that feel like they're struggling, and I promote like very custom programming, and I feel like that gets people that are like, oh, like I feel like things aren't working for me, like I need something custom. And, you know, it's funny enough, like my practice ends up being like, well, this is custom to you, but realistically, it could probably work for a lot of people. And then I try to like talk people into understanding like almost everything works. But, you know, I hope that message lands.
If you guys don't mind, I don't want to like veer away too much from the topic, but based off of what Emilio just said, it made me think of something about these custom programs.
But give me a second here, Eric. Yeah. Gentlemen, I think, and I say this with a lot of love, I think if you don't, and you know, we have a lot of coaches listening, if you don't take advantage of January, you are missing out. Now listen, I make 1/4 of my yearly revenue is January alone.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
For 7 years straight. Since I've started this business, January is 1/4 of my revenue. That month alone dictates the growth. And last year we had, 2019 was the biggest year we ever had. And then of course pandemic and stuff. And then it declined a little bit and then it recuperated. And last year we have beaten 2019 by 50%.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
2023, that's the reason why I have to do some legal stuff this year to shield myself from taxes. Otherwise, I'm dying. I pay so much, guys. I'm paying in Switzerland.
Oh, no, I get it. Yeah.
I pay so much taxes.
Yeah, New York ain't much better, I'm sure.
I think the U.S. is a little different, yeah. But in Switzerland, man, I have to pay twice taxes. First of all, it's the value-added tax, and then it's my personal tax. So I've paid so many taxes in these 7 years. I don't even want to look at the numbers, and that's what I hate. I hate numbers, but I have to learn them as a businessman. And you, Eric, you said, you know, that we are a little different than brick and mortar gyms. Gentlemen, we're all in the business of having a business. If you don't have a business, you have a hobby, and I don't think you all guys are living off of what you're doing, right?
Yep.
So it's a business, it's not a hobby. From my experience, it's January where people are motivated the most. Yes, that's true. And you have to capitalize on it. Now, Eric, what you're saying, your most serious customers. I've just done 2 deals in the beginning of January with a huge lifetime value. I always, I don't know if you're familiar with this. Lifetime value is how much value does a customer generate. And I would say it's rather yearly value, the way I see it. Because lifetime, I have a couple of clients that they've generated lifetime over 7 years. But most of them, I always reckon I have one number in 1 year. So that's their yearly value. And I've closed them because of January. Yes, they have been already warmed up through the YouTube, through some ads. And the advertising game, I'm spending close to $4,000 on ads, January alone, Google and Facebook.
Sense, yeah.
I'm going all in. And when it comes to targeting, I think this is what's so important. And I've learned this. When you want to gain new clients, it is always a game of small numbers. That's what I've learned. Yeah. Are you guys familiar with a sales funnel?
Yeah.
And how that works, right? You have the top, right, where everybody jumps in. And one quick question, and I think it's such a great topic. One quick question. How do you guys generate the tofu, the top of the funnel, how people come in? How do you do it?
Tofu.
Yeah, tofu. I love it.
So mine actually, so the program that I try and push everybody onto, the first 7 days are free. So I try and kind of promote it as get 7 days of free kettlebell training, and that's like the beginning of the funnel.
Great.
And
Eric?
even if I
Mine's
just get
referrals.
their email and go from there.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so I actually just implemented a free trial, but for me, it's the community. I have a separate Discord. And so if a lot of people join the Discord and they're part of the community, then that leads them to the program.
Do they have to sign up with their email when they join that?
Yeah, that's how I set it up. I'm thinking if I should I
You
don't
get their email, right? Discord doesn't give you their email when you do that.
No, but I have it set up through my website.
And what's your part, Emilio?
For me, it's referrals, but remember, I have a much smaller following than them.
Okay.
So like all of the people.
Not
out
about
there,
follow.
like,
Has nothing to do with following, brother. Nothing.
I'm
Nothing
telling
at
you,
all.
I feel pretty good about my income.
Okay.
But it's
no,
a
but not
very,
a
like,
following. You know,
referral.
it's not about the following. Who cares? Nobody cares about the following at all. You know, we think we are in this bubble, Instagram, YouTube stuff. I have to say, like I always say, a big channel, of course, doesn't matter whether it's YouTube or Instagram, is always warms up an audience. So what I would do if I was Pat or Eric, I would retarget the hell out of everybody who's interacting with my Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, I think what I'm saying is
Right?
that changes
That's what you
how
have to do.
interact, like how you leverage things, right? Like I can't necessarily leverage like on my Discord for something like that. Like we're
Yeah,
gonna
but
have, like, 3
who
people
cares
total.
about Discord? What you can leverage, brother, is a so-called HVCO. I've learned this 6 weeks ago. That's called a high-value content offer.
Oh, cool. Okay.
What's a high-value content offer? Here's and let me just, I want to share the power with you because you won't believe it, what happened in the last 6 weeks since I implemented the strategy. So my high-value content offer is a free
the book?
ebook.
Yep. I've
Yes,
seen
it's
this.
the
I've
free
seen you
ebook,
promoting it.
right?
Yeah.
Great. So I love the 7-day trial, Pat. But here's what I've noticed: if you have people on a 7-day trial and you start sending them emails where you want to warm them up to get something from you, where they actually want them to buy, is you have to actually wait for 7 days. Most of them won't start anyways. I get it. But what I've seen is I have given away 30-day kettlebell challenges and nothing happened. However, if it's a small thing, just a small piece, where you can really help them move forward in the ebook, like I do it right now. I did videos, I did challenges. Ebook works like magic. It's one little piece that they can download it. I can read it by myself. I don't have to work out because I'm in hunt mode. I'm in research mode. Or maybe I just stumbled on it, right? And let me tell you guys, here's what I want from you if you want my ebook. I want your email, I want your name, and I want your number.
So it's a data acquisition thing. It's really just like a way
That's
to-
what it is. That's
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
is. Exactly, Emilio. And
Reminds me of my tech
I've
days.
generated, here's the crazy thing. This ebook is resonating with my core audience so much so that I'm generating 50% conversion rate. I'm having a 50%, 50.
It's really high.
Normally it's 15 to 20 if you're good. I have 50 and people have to give me their number,
Yeah.
right? And here's the
would
thing.
say-
It's not just finish
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
a couple of seconds. And it's not even just the warmed up audience. Of course, they already know me from YouTube. But the cold audience from Facebook and Google, guess what? 35% conversion rate. So these
That's really
folks, I really connect with their pain, what they want, because we call this a halo strategy, where you have to find out what their biggest pain point is, and then you start advertising them through emails. And now here's the biggest thing. Now we start calling them. Angie's is going to start calling them next week, and have somebody in the US who's going to start calling them as well. And this is how you gather clients. And in January, because they're so motivated, you have to sift through, Eric, you got a huge number. And at the end, maybe 5 clients convert, right? But these 5 clients pay a couple of thousands for the intense coaching maybe. And that's where it's worth it, right? So bottom line, and then I'll stop talking. Bottom line, January is the most important month in fitness from my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, the numbers are way high. Sorry, Eric, you go. You were having something.
Well, I just want to comment on what you said about like follower count, and like that's sure that like gets more eyeballs and stuff. But if you're putting out like not quality stuff, then your retention will be terrible. And so,
definitely.
No, it's not, brother. No, it's not. Look at V-Shred. It's not. No, it's not. It's not.
I've never seen his like actual sales products. Like I know he has a big.
V-Shred is the biggest. He spent $300,000 on Facebook ads alone.
Yeah, but
I think
per month.
Have you looked at his product? Like, what is?
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing, gentlemen. That's what I want to. Of course, we care about our product, but here's what I've learned: your product can be average to bad. If you have great distribution, no, it's not they're gonna run. If you have great distribution, nobody cares. Because people don't know. We actually care, right? We are the ones who say, for example, as I was in that marketing class, right? We always have a Q&A. So this one guy jumps on the call, right? And he says, I have a fitness business, so what are you? And then we always have to give an elevator pitch. It's like, hey, we help busy over 40s get in shape with only 30 minutes of kettlebell training per week. That's what we do. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, good. So this guy starts talking. He's a young guy. He says, yeah, we help young women get in shape. Awesome. And then he starts talking about blood type diets.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm like, from a scientific perspective, completely unfounded. But nobody cares if you have a strong marketing machine. That's the reason why V-Shred is killing it, and we are here having a great podcast, right?
But I think what happens is
that's
like,
what it
you're
is,
talking
brother.
to 4 ethical coaches. Like, I think that nobody in this room is willing to do that, or in this e-room is willing to do that.
And you don't have to. And you don't have to, Emilio. But the what we can learn from V-Shred is distribution is the key.
Yeah.
And
your holding company.
Yes, and your
invest all their money in you.
and the content doesn't even have to be that great, Eric. You get what I'm saying? Of course, I think we can agree that all of us, we put out awesome content because we love what we do. But at the end of the day, people cannot make the discernment between what is good and what is bad because they see a V-Shred. It's like, oh, that guy's awesome. We look at him like, bro, you calling a conventional deadlift what was it? He called it I don't know, right? It was so off.
I video in like
right?
I think I was like 16 last time I saw.
But the guy is killing it. That's what I'm trying to say, guys. He's the biggest fitness spender on advertising, which means what he does works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's having that marketing aspect. A good marketing is very important. Obviously, I would personally feel terrible if I focused only on that and just had a crap product. So I'm glad we all agree that having a quality product is important, but I do agree with you, Gregory. This whole space is like relatively new to me. I started this as a hobby, 2 years ago, and only like 6 to 8 months ago did I start to get like serious about making it a business. And all of this stuff, this is why it's important to talk to other coaches to learn from each other. And so I'm really happy. I didn't know what to expect going into this conversation, but it seems like it's more of like an episode for coaches, which is good, or just like business owners in general.
Yeah, I just went on a tangent right here, but
but it was good.
That's what
I love.
Interesting, yeah.
That's what I would do if I was Pat and Eric. That's what I would do. I would go on Facebook. I would retarget everybody who interacts with my stuff. Give them a free ebook. You know what I pay for retargeting? This is the crazy thing. I pay on average $5 per lead.
Interesting.
For cold audiences. That's almost nothing. For retargeting audiences, I pay $1.50. And remember, these guys have to give me their name, their email, and their number.
Very valuable info.
And that's what I've learned from this guy, and he's so true about it. He says, you can be the best coach, the best architect, the best cleaner, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you have, he says, there's two guys. You have two guys. The one guy, both are in the cooking business or restaurant business. The reason why one guy sells his business after 20 years and makes millions, and the other guy still has a job, even though he's self-employed and he has to hustle and make ends work, is only one difference. It's not the food. It's the distribution and the marketing. That's the ugly truth. Yeah, keep going.
As I've dove deeper into this field, that's why I've stopped getting mad at people like V-Shred. Like 2 years ago, I was like, this guy, he's so blah blah. Like not him specifically, but just in general. But like, how does this person have such a big following? Blah, whatever it is. And I've stopped getting mad at that because like as I've gotten deeper into it, it's like it's just a marketing game. Like,
Exactly.
it's really not. It's not necessary. Obviously, you have to know something. At least like guys like us are going to pride ourselves on that and be ethical in a sense. But a lot of it's just such a big marketing game. And it's like, and if you're not willing to do it, you're not willing to do it. That's totally fine. Like, there's a lot of code. Like, I used to be that guy who's like mad and looking up at that guy like, oh, he sucks, whatever. And it's like, you can't get frustrated if you're not going to be willing to put in the distribution and the marketing. It's a different ball game.
Something else has even happened to me. So like, I haven't even really cared about like what a lot of the bigger people are doing because I've noticed. I mean, I'm in New York City, so that changes some things, right? But the market in New York City itself is so fucking huge that like just by virtue of training people, like I will gradually acquire because I get pretty much. I don't spend any money on ads or anything. I don't spend any money on it whatsoever. Anybody I get is organic completely. And I'll get like a follower from a friend, right? Like a friend, I'll train somebody like, oh, that was a great session. Like I'm going to tell my friend about it. The friend follows me. And I've noticed there's a really strong byline. Like if you follow my account off of somebody mentioning me, the chance of me eventually acquiring you as like a trainer, as like in your trainer, as your trainer in some way is like extremely high. And I charge a decent amount. So like what I've noticed is like going back to the following thing. And this is why I said, I don't really care about the following thing. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about because the difference between us is so big relatively. But like I'm making a pretty good amount of money just purely off of like referrals and tags and stuff on Instagram. Because like, you know, if I work with somebody that's like a coach or something and they tag me, one of their followers ends up following me and they're like, oh, I like how you train this guy. I'd be curious. We end up talking, they try it. And I have a really strong retention rate. Like pretty much people overwhelmingly don't leave my services. And so what ends up happening is I just get this gradually rising amount. But I'm also not super ambitious in terms of like how much money I make. And if people sometimes are weirded out when I say this, like I would say I'm relatively close to like where I'm pretty comfortable with life. Like me and my girlfriend are talking about buying a house or buying, you know, a place soon and stuff like that. Like we're pretty good. And I like the amount that I work and I like the amount I can work out and like the free time that I have. So I'm kind of to the point where an additional spend in time would not be worth it. So I'd have to start spending money. And I'm not sure I want to start spending money yet. So I'm kind of just, you know, I'm like in that space where I'm like, I'm pretty happy with things generally. I'm kind of thinking of how to scale right now and things like that. But even then, like if I don't feel passionate about something, because again, I'm just a business of one. If I don't feel passionate about something, I kind of just stop pursuing it. And I kind of have that give because I'm not a super massive person. You know what I'm saying? So that's like a little bit of an opposite like perspective.
Right, I fully understand, brother. I mean, this is, you've mentioned two things that don't add up. And that is, you're thinking about scaling, but you don't have the ambition to do it. And this is where you have differentiate the two. When you're saying, hey, I'm fine. I have no ambition to even grow larger. I'm totally fine, which is cool. Don't misunderstand me, right? This is totally fine. But as soon as you change the thinking into, maybe I want to scale. This is where things change. And this is what I had to learn too. Because I was building this business and I was like, how did I even do this? I was building my business for 6.5 years or 6 years with referrals only.
Yeah.
And yes, I did some out of door marketing, right? With billboards. And yes, they work too a little bit. It's just shotgun principle. Well, boom, let's see what sticks. Somebody sticks maybe and hangs in the web of the spider that you're creating, right? But as soon as you start thinking about scaling, this is what you need. You need to be able to predict, right?
Yeah.
The predictability. You need predictability. And you only get predictability through advertisement because referrals or organic is not predictable. It's like, okay, maybe I get somebody, then I get two. And I love how this guy says it in the marketing. He says, you either have feast or famine. 1 month, it's going through the roof. And the next month you're like, oh my God, these taxes are going to eat me up, right? And that's where ads come in. Ads give you a little bit more predictability. And I mean, we've gathered in the last 6 weeks, we've gathered 2,500 leads. This is like, oh my God, level of stuff that came in. I'll never be able to call these guys up alone. That's why Angie has to do that stuff. That's why I have somebody in the States where I'm talking to him to employ him to work for us, because it's like, oh my God, 2,000 people. You got to call them all up and ask, hey, you downloaded that ebook. Do you need any help? What's up? And
well,
then
can I ask Eric something?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Eric. So Eric, you said that you use the Discord, right?
Yeah.
So that's like you own the Discord, right?
Yeah.
Do you find a strong conversion through there? Like, do you
that's a
find
good question.
That doesn't count? That doesn't cost you any. Well, unless you pay for like the boost or whatever. But like, do you find a strong turnover from that, or a strong retention? I guess.
So yeah, the people who participate in the Discord, they're either members already or they're not, and they're just like interested about like joining. I would say the ratio is like 90% of the Discord members already are like in my program. The 10%, unfortunately, if I wanted to do like data analysis on it, I would have to export everyone's like emails and usernames, which don't necessarily match up to a spreadsheet, and then calculate it manually. So even though I have their emails, that doesn't necessarily line up with their usernames on Discord. So I don't have that data, but I can give you like a rough estimate that the people who participate in Discord are the ones who are willing to join or stay.
Because that's like an extra lift, right? Like if you join the Discord, it's like clearly they fuck with
right.
you.
They care enough to do that, and like to put especially if they don't have Discord already downloaded on the phones. The fact that they're willing to participate, like time, skin in the game, like they're willing to put in the work essentially.
I think about that because Eric, I mean, you don't post on the Reddit as much as you used to, but I pretty much live on the kettlebell Reddit. And it's so interesting because it's such like a particular like part of like the internet and like lifting culture and like even Reddit culture, because it feels like it's from 2005 in some ways and from like 2026 in some ways. You know what I'm saying? And it's very fascinating because Reddit is like such a big lift to get on. Like not only do you need to sign up and like use your email and create a username, it's also kind of weird and obtuse to use. You know what I'm saying? And so you
Discord
get like
is like even more so. It's just like not intuitive at all.
Exactly. And so it's interesting. Like if you funnel it down, right? Like I feel like it goes like Reddit and then it's like Discord, and you can actually see that because Mark Wildman, even though it's not his official Reddit, his official Discord, he has that too. But interestingly enough, I think because of the type of fan that Mark Wildman has, his Discord is fucking massive. He has like 100,000. Well, I don't know. It's like 10,000. Let me not say 100.
Oh, really?
He has like 10,000 people on the Discord. It's massive. It's
he
an unofficial
doesn't even
one.
like promote that stuff. At least that I've seen.
I figured it out through the back rooms. Like somebody mentioned it to me, and I was like, "What? Mark Wildman has a Discord?"
Yeah. So this is like similar to your business model, I guess. Kind of opposite of Gregory's, where like Gregory, you're pushing stuff out to people who are cold. Whereas Emilio, you are letting them come to you, and then like their retention might be a little bit stronger, and maybe that's what Mark Wildman
and
does.
you can both. I mean, you can both.
Yeah,
you can do both. Most definitely. Right. And I see that the warmth from the audience, like I'm saying, 50%. Now it's actually 58. 58% conversion rate is from the warm audience. And funny thing is, I was able to compare it with a free workout, kind of like what you did, Pat. Just one workout. I was able to compare it. The warm audience was converting, that already knew me, was converting on the workout 15%.
15?
Oh, wow.
15. So you know what that told me? That was like, okay, something's completely off. Because now with the 58, now what am I doing? We were joking about it, right? And that's what you're saying, Emilio. It's like, hey, and I get these comments all the time like, hey, bro, I'm 30 years old. Can I do these exercises? Of course, man. I'm a woman. I'm a woman. Can I do the man over? Of course. But what are you doing? I've learned this from a marketer.
Men over 40.
He calls it dog whistle copy. It's you are calling out folks who are interested to raise their hand, and these are the ones that you want. That's why I'm saying 10 minutes for men over 40. And because I do this in the ebook, the title, I've worked on the title for so long. It's like how 6.5 million over 40s get in shape using this new kettlebell code.
Genius.
In 30 minutes or less, or in 30 minutes per week. Like it sounds like this. I've worked on that title so much, and here's what the marketers say: you spend 50% or even more. You spend 50% of your marketing dollar on the title. If your title's bad, you lost. And so I'm seeing that this thing is converting like crazy. And if you when you talk about Discord or Reddit, how I would see it from that perspective, that's Mifu, middle of the funnel. But top of the funnel, yes, you have to give me your email, your number, and your name. So that's already a couple of hoops that people have to jump through. But make it in that regard as easy as possible. And then once they move further down the funnel, then it's Mifu and then it's the bottom, like where people actually convert into paying clients. And I now have the system and the data that I can say for the money that I spent on Facebook, for the one marketing dollar that I spent, I was able to make 3 back.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't it interesting as you scale, you start to see consistencies in human psychology? And I think that's
Oh my God. You're opening up Pandora's box again, brother.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that you don't see when you're just working with people in the real world, because everyone individually is different. But on like a larger scale, people act in patterns, and it's like you know that if you push out an ad and with this much money, your return will be X. You know, it's something that I didn't know.
It's frightening almost.
And I don't want to. I don't want to talk throughout this whole podcast all the time. But anybody of you, have you seen the interview from Shannon Briggs? I think is his name, with Cat Williams, the comedian.
Oh, the one that like went viral a couple weeks ago.
50 million
talking smack about Kevin Hart.
50 million views, 50 million. And I was actually, on a side note, I was calculating how much money Shannon made. We make $4 for 1,000 views. So we have 800,000 views. That equals to about 2,000 Swiss francs, or maybe $2,500 this month. I'm assuming that Shannon made $145,000 off of this one video alone. And
they probably have a more favorable return. Like a lot of like the bigger creators have a better return like per view than like.
Oh, it depends. No, it depends. Also, in most of the time,
YouTube does it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, most of the time it depends on the niche. If you're in the finance niche, you have 3 times the amount that I have. I have $4 for 1,000, and finance is like 16. And Shannon, I don't know where he is, but just to reiterate that point that Eric was saying, I love what Kat was saying, and yes, I can confirm when you work with more people and reach more people. I love what Kat said. It's in one statement. He says, everybody thinks that they live on this little island where it's me only, where I'm individual, but there's 7 types of people that you will encounter throughout most of your life that act in unison, almost all the same. So it's 7 characters, or at least, I think that's what you're alluding to, Eric. You have people act, and you said it's frightening, Emilio. Exactly. Yeah. People act like robots. If you know how to trigger psychology, that's why they say, at least in Switzerland, they say when you've mastered psychology, you master the art of the arts, or something like this.
Crazy. I almost try to avoid that stuff though. Like if I start noticing, like I don't know, that stuff like that messes with me. Like I don't know if I played too many like video games or something like that. Like when I start noticing like major patterns in human behavior, I'm like, I can't delve further into this topic. Like I can't do it.
I think it's something I noticed that I haven't exploited yet necessarily. And
yeah,
Gary, you've exploited it.
I think you have exploited it without realizing it, because I was just thinking the whole time we were having that conversation, this is exactly what I do with my content.
With like the types of content that you post.
Yeah. Like I'm sure Eric, you've gone to post something, you're like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a good one, and because you've done something like that in the past and it tends to do well, and then you've done something where like, this might not be the best, but I think it's a good value add, so I'm just going to put it out there for like the people who want to take it home. But I mean, I do it with my content. There are times where I'm like, yeah, this one's going to hit, and it does, and there are times where it doesn't, because that's algorithm and stuff like that. But we definitely take part in that more than we probably think we would. Maybe not necessarily on such a mass scale of advertisements. What'd you say?
Are those videos that you're thinking about that do really well for you? Are those where you pretend to be the gym bro? Where you
actually,
I love these videos.
Yeah, with the glasses that are upside down.
I love them.
Tomfoolery. Ironically enough, no, because I know already that those videos don't do as well, but those are good value adds for the people that already follow me. So like, those don't
do
get
well for you.
Just kettlebell complexes And
Yeah,
like me,
right. I've noticed that.
so
I've noticed
kettlebell
that for Lewis.
complexes, and what I've noticed too actually does really well is when I have video of me teaching a class. I think
Yeah,
there's
that
a
makes
few
sense.
different things that go into it. You know, I think it's like, oh, he's not just some shirtless dude doing this in his garage by himself. He's actually telling other people to do it. He's actually teaching, and it's something I can then take home with me and
Can I
save it.
ask you something as a coach? This is like,
Yep.
Gerger, this is like unrelated from being a business. So like this has nothing to do with making more money or less money as a result of it. But do you, when you record your classes, do you feel like you can provide the same product to the people there? Because I was recording I run and lead, I'm the head strength coach for another gym.
Mhm.
And like a lot of people do my programming, a lot of people run it. I teach the main class if you want to work out and do it with me and stuff like that. And I've noticed when I was recording it, for some reason, I just wasn't able to deliver the class as well.
Do you mean
Like
like
something about
recording the people doing the class, or like?
Yeah, there was just something about it. It like killed the intensity. Like we almost like the
So-
grit of it, you know?
So if somebody's, there's two things that'll happen. One, like if I'm just describing something quickly, like, hey, this is our kettlebell complex today. Like I'll just have my wife film that on my phone, and she'll just record that like 1 minute, and then it's gone. Well, not gone, but like then I'll just chop it up.
Yeah.
Or I have people come in and video the whole class, and then they like a videographer, and then they'll give me a bunch of stuff.
So you
But
get
if you-
somebody to do it.
Yeah. Like if
can
it
see
looks
that.
nice and it gets somebody to do it. But in terms of just like, you know, recording somebody for like 7 seconds doing some swings, like, yeah, that doesn't take away from it. But I would never just like walk around with my phone for the like 20 minutes and record the class. That would definitely take away from it.
Yeah, because I would set up like a tripod and like try to get different good angles. And I just
Yeah,
noticed,
yeah,
I don't know
that'll-
if it's like me, it kills my vibe.
No,
Like,
that'll
I'm
take
just like,
that'll take
"Ugh."
too much. You'll be thinking about it the whole time. It's a lot easier to just pay somebody to come
Yeah.
do it for you.
And I also work with a good amount of populations that are like a little bit not super, like not the most secure. Like they're getting into lifting in many cases and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And that can sometimes kill their intensity. And I feel like people
Mhm.
like it. They're like coming in, they're like, I'm going to hit it. Like we're not going to get recorded. Like we're just going to hit it hard.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I just noticed that. Eric, I don't know if you do like group classes or anything like that, but I don't know how you
I
feel.
just work with individuals one-on-one. A lot of it is beginners, and I'm teaching them form. That's like the main thing for in person. But one thing that I did want to comment on, Pat, is that I commend you for putting out your personality out there.
Yeah.
You're really good at that. All three of you guys are, and that's something that I have learned from you all, and I have to get better on. So thanks for.
So that's it's
Leave me
like I
alone.
was saying, ironically enough, like those videos where I'm like talking to the fake gym bro, like I don't put those videos out there in an attempt to go like viral, for lack of a better
Yeah.
term. Like
But it
those
adds your
videos, and then
personality.
it adds to my personality. And like I never want to just be like the guy on the screen who's like completely unrelatable. Like I put those videos out there. Like I look at content in different like facets, Gregory. I think we talked about this last time, but it's like, you know, there's going to be like a value add, like something that people can take home. There's going to be posts
Yeah.
that like I want to kind of hit a little bit, and the goal is like get followers in. But then there's also like, at least the way I look at it, there is like a personality post that gives people an opportunity to understand like he's a normal dude. Like he's got
Yeah.
this random setup. There's shit on his wall. Like it's not like this cookie cutter thing. Like it's way
Yeah.
more entertaining or just different. It just gives a different side that I think other people tend to lose when they're producing content that I don't ever want to lose.
And I think
Personality
appreciate
post.
you
Oh,
saying
no,
that.
you go. You, Gregory. You're
Yeah,
going to say
yeah.
something, Gregory. What are you
Yeah, I think it is important to make sure that other people see that you actually are a person who works with other people, because I see this. You've encountered this too, right? You have this guy or gal on Instagram, #1 online coach in the world, and the only thing I see is you, right? The only thing I
Yeah.
see is you. And while I understand because of privacy reasons, you don't want to, right? Okay, I get it, but you can make it you see it, it's a difference, right? Oh, this guy got his own gym. Okay. Oh, this guy got his own kettlebells. Oh, this guy got his own room. Oh, this guy. That's why I told you the last time, Emilio, getting your own
yeah.
gym, because it adds credibility.
By the way, I'm in the talks. I just wanted to let you know. I'm in the talks.
I love it. And the way you guys are talking about content, it's the same thing with psychology again. And that's what I've learned being on YouTube for so long. You have hub, hero, and help content.
Yep.
And this is how I divide everything. So hub is where I'm saying 10 kettlebell swing mistakes. And this is where you're probably alluding to a little bit, Pat, where it's like, this is a lot of value, where people, especially the ones who are focused on kettlebells, be like, oh, mistakes that I'm doing, let's check this out, right? Okay. Then I have the help, help is the 10 mistakes. The hub content is the one that I'm most known for to a certain extent to the larger audience, and no, it's not the Pablo videos, it's the workouts, right? It's where I explain a workout, and here you go, and there you go, boom, boom. Maybe it's follow along, maybe it's explained, right? Great. And then you have Hero. This is where you drop some pipe bombs, where it's like, the strong first snatch sucks, and it gets everybody riled up.
What a good video. I love that video.
Right? And this is how I now started differentiating the content, and where I have a straight list where I'm like, okay, hub is what I usually do. Help is I want to get a little bit more value and be a little bit more specific pertaining to the tool that I'm teaching. And Hero is the pipe bomb.
I like how intentional you are about the type of content that you put out there too. Like
it's a growth strategy actually.
Yeah.
It's and you know, this is what I've learned too. Somebody once asked me the question, was like, Gregory, what is your goal? And then you're like, okay, maybe a monetary goal. I want to make $500,000 $1 million a year. And then there's this one follow-up question. Okay, how do you get there? How do you get there? Oh, you know, I'm trying to put out some content. No. What is the strategy, bro?
Yeah.
Same with reaching 100K subscribers. I love what you said, Emilio, right? Well, you know, hey, this is gonna fly. If I post this is gonna boom. I know it. Because you know your core audience, you know your type of content, and you know what they love. But you don't want to always just give them what they love. Sometimes it's like something smaller. And even, I know if you guys are familiar with Neil Patel. Neil Patel is kind of like the search engine optimization king. And he said the videos where he's very specific on a given topic, say like search engine optimization for restaurants or something like this, right? Where he's very niche specific, he says they don't get a lot of views, but they get a lot of leads.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Where if he makes it in a broader sense, like search engine optimization, if you want to rank top 5 in the next 5 months or whatever, something like this, more views, but less leads.
Yeah.
Right?
And you just choose where you want to specialize, or you do both, like you were just saying.
You do both, exactly.
Like, because one of those would be a hub versus the other one would be
exactly.
Hey, I'm pretty smart. Okay.
You got it. You were educated. Yeah.
My business coach basically was saying that it's like with some sort of intention. It's like in a very, very simplistic way, post a bunch of content to get more followers, then give those followers more value. Post a bunch of content to get more followers, then give those followers a ton of value. Because if it's just a bunch of flash, then eventually they'll lose their interest. But you have to give them.
So Gregory, what stage are you in right now? Because you've posted a few pipe bombs, right? You've posted the strong first snatch sucks, the lion snatch. You've posted
the lion snatch, that great Pavel Marchek. No, somebody commented Lions War, Aztec Warrior, your mama snatch, whatever, something like this.
And then you have that, and then you have Axe. Like what are you in right now? Because you're definitely in like a shit talking stage, kind of. Not in a bad way. I love it, right? I love it. But you definitely are, right?
I think maybe that's an American thing. I don't get it, because it's like, hey, I'm just giving you a feedback to something, and then people are always like a little bit riled up. But I get it. It's a tribal world that we live in. Yeah. I get it. Some love it, others hate it, but I don't care at all. The idea is my main, and that's the funny thing. When I look at my YouTube channel, and this is the beauty of it, where people are hating me. Oh, and I forgot it. I wanted to introduce the Kettle Knights podcast channel, being a part of Leberstock, which is the TMZ of kettlebells, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is.
That's right.
That's what it is. Because I've recently heard this. So, right? You showed me this, Emilio. And Leberstock, that Leberstock guy, he's the TMZ of kettlebells. Well, that's awesome. Let's get some, build a platform.
Said it on Strong First. I think
Strong First guy said it. Exactly. So, here's the thing. The kettlebell space, or I even have to go a little bit more into the niche. The kettlebell hardstyle sports space, which is even smaller, right? Most people just know it. Kettlebells are out there. It's like a dumbbell, right? They don't care. But yes, but our niche, which is very small, they think you are gaining followers because of Pavel, because you are piggybacking off of this guy. When matter of fact, one of my strongest performing videos now are 5 exercises for men over 40. 10-minute workout for men over 40. How to get started with kettlebells in 2024.
Yeah, but people never remember the nice content, right? Like,
but
everybody's gonna be like, oh yeah, when Gregory put out this thing,
exactly. But here's the thing. The people that I reach with this type of content, these are my potential customers. and my potential clients. Not the ones who make who start crying when I say, hey, with Pavel X, the science is a little bit murky. These will never be my clients, never. And I don't want to offend nobody, but hey, I'm just giving feedback. Just like when somebody, I think somebody recently did this. She's a YouTuber. She has like 40,000 subscribers, and she did a labor stock workout. And then she gave her opinion. And she was very solid. Yeah, she was very solid. She said, okay, this is Gregory's workout. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a pull. I'm looking for a rotation. I'm looking for a press. And I was like, ooh, this gal knows her stuff. So she did the workout. I don't know. I just found it somewhere on YouTube. I forgot her name, unfortunately. But I saw it. And then at the end, she gave a valid critique. She was like, I really loved it. I mean, kettlebells, you know what kettlebells do, right? If you engage with them like this, it's like, ooh, endorphins. She's like, I enjoyed it. And then I sent her a comment. I was like, hey, awesome. And even if she would have said, this was missing, and I hated it, I still would have said, hey, you know what? Hey, thanks, man. Thanks, gal. Awesome. I don't care, right? And here's the thing. We all know, with every one of you that I've had on the podcast, we all talked about Pavel, right?
Yeah, it's impossible.
So 20 years down the line, if some of us takes the throne in kettlebells, and I'm talking about the new generation, not talking about the old guys who are mad if you call it an EMOM workout. Come on, man. EMOM. Call it OTM. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like that, yeah.
In the book. They don't like it if you call it.
Read the book.
Read the book. Read the book. It's like, for God's sakes, don't call it every minute. Come on, guys. Come on. We have to give credit to the CrossFit guys. Yeah, but it was invented earlier. Okay, but let me give you a caveat. Kettlebells were way before Pavel, but we give this guy credit, right? It should be the same with CrossFit, with everybody. But here's what I'm saying. If 20 years down the line, one of us takes the throne, right? Then one of us, or maybe some of us, will always seep into the conversation if a couple of dudes or gals have a conversation about kettlebells. And that's what Pavel did. And what I really find sad about Pavel is he stopped going on podcasts. He doesn't talk to anybody unless he preaches to the choir, but not to other folks. And what are you supposed to, at least from my perspective, what are you supposed to do when you reach legend status? You're supposed to teach everybody. Reach out. Go and talk to everybody, right? Talk to everybody. Talk to the world about your product. Don't just talk to your own clients or your own choir. At least that's my perspective.
Yeah,
I think
once you get big enough, you're going to get backlash no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that because he kind of got big before the internet, now in the past few years post-COVID, I think the dynamics changed between him and the public. I never really consumed any of his stuff except for when he was on podcasts.
You neither.
No? Okay, so none of us are all
You've never You've never read his books or anything?
I have scanned one of them when I saw it at a friend's house, but I've never actually
So this is the opposite.
And I probably should, to be honest. It's not bad to get as much information as possible and just sift through,
Agree. Yeah, agree.
No, I've read all of his books.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm faulting I should have, and I probably still should read the content that he has out there. I mean, it's big for a reason, and it also influences how other kettlebell coaches or practitioners think about the tool. So
I would say part of the reason why he's so popular is because he has really specifically targeted a niche and has locked that niche down really
marketing.
Yes,
there
he's
you go.
Super good. Part of the reason, and this is part of the reason why people become so intense about his stuff is 100%. Because the type of demographic that he has targeted 100%. Also gets riled up really, really hard when you come after the guru. 100%. It's like the same thing. And I don't know how you guys feel about what's that guy's name? Jocko or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Jocko Willink.
Yeah, let's say you come after Jocko. I don't know anything about him, but people will get mad at you. Yeah, you come. Okay, sure, you like it. Okay, I don't know anything about it. You come after Goggins, people will get mad, right? It's just that demographic, that 35 to 50 plus demographic. They find their fitness person and they fucking love that person, right? And I think that Pavel just has that, and he didn't originally, I don't think, but as a result of Strong First being pretty decently old at this point in RKC as well, not in terms of kettlebell training, but just relatively in terms of the internet and stuff. Mm-hmm. That demographic has aged up with hardstyle as a training philosophy, and so people really ride, right? If you go to the Strong First forums, which already is obviously going to be a very niche and targeted group of people because you're on the Strong First forums, people will get very riled up. And even for a while on the Reddit, like if you said like I think a get up is stupid, which by the way, since you guys know me, you know I say that all the fucking time because I think it's stupid. Or like Simple and Sinister is like not a great program or whatever. Like you will get called, and I have been called a cavalcade of names just because you don't like Pavel's content or you don't like Pavel's thing. Or even worse, if you come with some legitimate critiques, people will say that you're just trying to like demean him.
Yes.
But it's like I don't
get
care
this
about
all the
Pavel.
time.
He doesn't
I
care
get
about
this.
me. He doesn't
Yeah.
pay my bills. You
Yeah,
know what
I
I'm
get
saying?
this. Oh, I get this all the time with the review of X.
Yeah.
One of the comments was like, "It seems you want to trash the guy."
They can't
Hey,
care about you.
how, bro, listen. How am I trashing Pavel's science by inviting an actual scientist with 40 years of experience in the field, has done 130 research papers, and I asked the guy, hey, does anti-glycolytic exist in your mind? He says no. In the second contraction, you're already in glycolysis. Okay, great. Then I read him a part of the book of this one statement, like where the one guy saying the high intensity zombies who walk around, they're in and out of the office of the doctor's office all the time. They only awake when they train, alluding to the CrossFit folks, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And I read this to the gentleman. I read this to Professor Roberts, and he was like, "Oh, nice writing, but I don't see where I can." Right? He objected it. He was like, "Hey, evidence, research suggests," and I love the fact that he brought up free radicals, because in the book they're saying research is showing that free radicals are harmful. What does Professor Roberts say? He says it in the podcast. He says, well, research from 20 years ago, there was a big movement against free radicals. Now we have learned it's actually a pathway or a situation in the body that is necessary for stimulus and growth and health.
Wait, Greg,
wow.
I'm sorry to stop you real quick. Pat and Eric, are you? So you guys haven't read the book, so are we just talking past you? Do you not know what we're talking about right now?
I know what you're talking about. It's been brought up outside of the book before. I know he brought it
like
up.
Like the anti-glycolytic training. Okay, just because it's like a very odd world. Like if you haven't like consumed that.
This is like getting into the weeds where like casual viewers will be like, "What are they talking?"
Oh, you're right.
No,
you're right.
I
We're
think
going
you'd be
too
surprised.
hard
I don't
on
know
this.
if that's true. No, I feel like kettlebell people are like into this shit. They know, but maybe I'm wrong.
Kettlebell. Okay, yeah, no, keep going though. Keep going. I want to.
All right. So just to finish this train of thought, and that can be a regular application for everything pertaining fitness. Free radicals 20 years ago was like, hey, this is a bad thing. Now research or evidence caught up and was like, hey, it's actually a good thing. And are you guys familiar with Dr. Lane Norton? BioLane?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right. So I love what he recently, and even put this up in the review critique, in the review of Pavel's Acts, because I love how he describes it. He says, sometimes people demonize a mechanism and they completely disregard the outcome. And then he follows up with saying, this is so brilliant. Then he says, for example, when it comes to carbs, right? Carbs inhibit lipolysis, right? They inhibit breaking down of fats. Okay, so if I eat a lot, this is a mechanism that happens if you eat a lot of carbs. Okay, so therefore, the logic would be, if I eat too much carb and I disregard the calories, I don't care, I get fat. And he says, that is a pathway or a mechanism. The outcome is, who cares about carbs? If you keep calories low, you will burn fat and lose weight. This is the outcome. And then he compares it with stocks. He says, imagine you have a mutual fund, right? You invest in that mutual fund. And then your brother comes up to you and says, bro, did you see that one stock in that mutual fund? It went down 40%. And you're like, oh my God. And then that next guy comes up and says, who cares? The mutual fund went up 50%. So who cares about that single one stock that went down 40%? And this is how he really brilliantly explains when people get hung up on an individual pathway in the body that happens. For example, glycolysis makes you feel nauseated, right? You guys know this when you train intensively. And recently my heart rate went up to 180. I kept it there for 6 minutes straight. Boom, 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 boom. And funny thing, just on a side note, Pavel says you're supposed to do the talk test, right?
Yeah.
Hey, my heart's beating 180 and I can still talk. I feel that I'm pumped and my heart is like, and I can still talk.
Oh, you're different than me. You're definitely different than I am, brother.
Yeah, but maybe
I
that's
can't do
my
that.
that's my endurance levels, right? 180, my heart is, and I can still
Yeah.
talk, right? And then it takes me about 3.5 to 4 minutes. I've measured it. Then it goes back down to 120, right? And when you look at the interval method, how the original interval method was conceived, it was like, okay, bring your athletes up for 100-meter dash or 200-meter dash, bring it up to RPE of about 8 to 9. So that's like, I'm almost dying. And then you have them up to 180, so the heart is like racing. Then you finish them the 100-meter dash. Then you stop and wait until the heart rate comes back down to 120. That's about 3 to 4 minutes if you're very active and very athletic. And then you have them do it again. This is the power of interval training, which can be a very beautiful added method to improve your endurance. And Pavel's completely against it and says, no. We don't do this glycolysis stuff because glycolysis does dirty deeds. That's quotes from the book. It does dirty deeds in your body. While at the same time, Professor Roberts says, if it wasn't for glycolysis, we wouldn't even be able to do a second contraction.
Yeah,
So-
it's already going.
So you have one part of evidence, Pavel, which is not a biochemist, going against a professor who studied that stuff for 40 years and says, that doesn't make sense to me. If these two worlds collide, I'm confused, I don't see the logic, and then I'm like, okay, I take this stuff that Pavel says with a huge bowl of salt.
But here's the thing, even beyond that, and I don't know, Pat and Eric, how you guys feel about it. Like, I think I'm black-pilled on like kettlebells for endurance anyway. Like, I don't even know like if kettlebells are really like a cardio. I guess like if you think about conditioning as like a general idea or like strength endurance, but like I don't think that you're going to significantly improve your like 1,000-meter row training with primarily kettlebells for a block. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I think
Yeah.
the way that you actually improve your like endurance metrics is by like getting your nose to the fucking grindstone and going for a run. Like
Yeah,
you
it's
see
like-
that with like the best kettlebell sport athletes. Like they all run like half marathons for training and marathons for training. Sorry, what were you gonna
Yeah.
say, Eric?
That like in general, like as a general life philosophy, if you want to get better at a thing, just do that thing more.
Just do that
And like
thing,
you
yeah.
could do you could train other modalities to maybe help. Like if you want to get really good at basketball, like play basketball.
Play
you know?
basketball.
And then,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, but yeah, if you want to increase your sprinting or your like long distance running, like do those things too. And I
But I
think
think even
kettlebells are
beyond
good
that- oh,
just
no, you go, you go.
generally with like general health. And they're also very good at getting you stronger with kettlebells. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you're trying to get better at a very specific modality, like do that thing more and then use kettlebells on the side to like, I look at kettlebells as a very general tool, which is not everyone's
Agree.
philosophy with kettlebells. Like
Agree.
I think
Yeah.
like a lot of the sport people might, I don't know, disagree in terms of the endurance aspects.
No, I
Yeah.
think a lot of the sport people would actually agree with you. Like I think a lot of sport people see the kettlebell as their sport. But then you'll look at like how sport athletes train. Like, do you know who Denis Vasilev is?
Yeah, I know.
He just posted a video of him for his general preparation work, like doing like a 305-pound, like a 140-kilo-pound squat for 3, and like doing like rope climbs and American swings and running and stuff. So I think they're
Yeah.
actually very open-minded.
But you
I
know,
think
with
it's actually a
Dennis,
hard style
sometimes,
thing that's mostly
but sometimes, brother, if I may interject, I
yeah.
think I'm not sure. I think Dennis also does stuff for the gram, because
Oh,
and not hey, please guys, don't attack me for this. So why am I saying this?
Kinda
Why am I
sorry
saying
to
this?
Obama, Gregory.
We all
Why am
do
I
it.
saying
Fine.
this? I've just had the guys that I had on the podcast, right? When they share their stuff with me, it's like, listen to Gregor Sobochan. Gregor Sobochan is probably a very great source for kettlebell sport guys because he trained under Valery Fedorenko, he trained under Ivan Denisov, and I think it was Sergei Rudnev. I'm not sure. And he said 3 different types of training. It was completely different with all 3. But the one line that you can say, well, you all had to do is build up the volume.
yeah.
Build up the volume, right, with the jerk or whatever have you. And he never mentioned he had to do heavy lifting or the stuff that Dennis does. Now, I'm sure Dennis is maybe trying out some new things. I'm sure what he does helps. But I'm also thinking from a content strategy, maybe Dennis also thinks, hey, let's post something for the gram, right? Like,
Yeah.
Of course. Have you seen Alexander Khvostov's 56 kg snatch? 56.
Crazy.
56. The guy attached weights on the 48, on the golden one. And he was doing whoom, And guys trying to tell me, well, when it comes to power production, it's all about strong first. How much power production do you think Alexander Khvostov has? The guy's my weight, or maybe a little bit heavier, since he's a little bit taller, I'm assuming. And we wanted to have a podcast, and it didn't work out, but that's the side. No, I got to get him on. And if you do a 56 kg snatch, you have solid power production, most definitely, right?
Well, he's too efficient, so he's not producing any power, Gregory.
Well,
He's too efficient.
He's being sarcastic.
Of course. You're too efficient, so no power.
It's like Liu Xiaojun, you know when he snatches like 200?
He's way too efficient, no strength.
Yeah, there's...
All cardio.
He might not actually be trying though. Every time I watch him lift, it's like it's
I don't know, man. This
Who are you
you're an
talking
Olympic
about now?
lifter, right? Are you
This guy.
Liu Xiaojun? Do you know him?
I consider myself. You've probably seen him. He's a Chinese guy. He snatches like, what did he snatch? I think his world record is 177.
Yes.
How do you spell his name?
Luxiaojun.
Yeah,
Okay. I'll look him up.
Xiaoyan.
Yeah, you probably
Yeah.
recognize him because if it's hard to. Yeah, there you go. It's
Yeah,
hard
there
to
you
not
go.
miss
Awesome.
him.
Thanks, Emilio.
He's the guy. He's the Chinese guy that squat jerks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom, right? And then he goes down. My God.
Yeah.
He's the other guy that's not Tian Tao. When you think of like Chinese Olympic lifters, it's like those two I feel like are the most popular. But the sort of conceit is that they're both like some of the best in their weight class and at their sport, and they're highly efficient. This is a lot of what Gregory's been talking about in his content lately too. Like the whole power production argument doesn't make a lot of sense because when you look at the best people at any sport, they're all like the most efficient at it. Like it would almost be like, you know, you have to use like this technique to like shoot a 3-pointer to like build true strength, you know, or to be like a better basketball player.
Yes.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like you can shoot like this to be better at it and make more points. But that's a very like, and I'm honestly the, no, you go. What are you going to say?
And have you seen, just adding to that weightlifting discussion, Klokov's hang snatch?
Oh my God.
Which
Disgusting.
one?
I mean, I think it was a 200 kg. I don't know what it was.
The pause.
So-
Are you talking about the pause hang?
And the guy, and the first comment, everybody liked that comment. It was like, this is not a pause snatch. This is a, how did he put it? This is a, put it down, wait for next year, see you in 2 weeks, rest, pause, snatch, right? The guy was,
He paused for a really long. I actually ironically watched that video recently. He picks it up from the ground, brings it back below his knee at least 3 to 4 full seconds, and then hits it.
Yeah, it's like 200
Hard charging
kilos.
up.
And the body, I
He
love.
really is.
You thought you were joking.
Yeah, he's like charging the Kamehameha.
Yes.
He's like ready to go.
Yes, bam, here he goes.
It's
and
amazing.
I love that when you see this is what I'm understanding most definitely, that the amount of tension that this guy is producing, the body's not moving an inch, it stays like frozen. You could probably take it as a still, right? This is how he
could.
stays down there, and then boom, right, he goes up. And what does Klokov has to do? Of course, is maximum crazy power production, but he has to follow the most efficient bar path possible. And this is the only thing that I'm getting to. And every time we have this discussion about when I talk about, you know, when we get a little bit into the niche of the snatch, just recently somebody said it again. They always say this. It's like, yeah, but sport is more endurance and hardstyle is more strength. I'm saying, okay, let's measure it. My bet would be it will probably be similar outcomes. So if we have similar outcomes at the end of two guys snatching, one sport, one strength, one hardstyle, high tension and high volume, and we have similar outcomes, why bother with different techniques then? This is my only point that I want to get at.
Interestingly, Gregory, neither Pat nor Eric, I feel like particularly do either style. Like I feel like they just move.
Yeah,
and
which
even
is totally
more
fine.
Eric, I feel like Eric, I
Just
feel
a
like you flow
technical,
with it
yeah.
a lot, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Which is
I said I feel like you flow with it a lot. Like
just-
I was
I
watching
do.
I
videos
just
of you snatching a fork.
snatch, right? That's the
I just-
exercise.
Yeah, we talked about this on
Do it.
individual podcasts with Gregory that I started with juggling, and then I think that informed my form nowadays. Like I have like a more hybrid approach, and I think it helps that I didn't like go into one circle versus the other. But I did want to make a point about efficiency. I think that's why a lot of beginners, after like 2 or 3 months of consistent training, they can move up in weight a lot because they get used to efficiency and how their body moves.
Dude, yes.
But that doesn't just stop after like a year or two. Like the expert, like the experts among experts have even more understanding of their body and the equipment that they're using to be that much more efficient. So I don't even look at the circles anymore between hard or soft.
Yep.
Like I see it obviously on social media, but in terms of how I train, it's not.
I think we're also like in the start. I was saying this actually in a Reddit comment that I think we're like at the start of like a modern like kettlebell renaissance where like people don't give a fuck about any of the certs. I mean, there's like still some of the new kind of weird ones like kettlebell coach university that like people are doing the like dead shit, like the dead snatch, the dead split jerk and stuff like
Split
that.
jerks and stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Split
with like
jerks,
24
love
kilos,
it.
but don't get me
Yeah,
started. So like you'll see people. I know,
Yeah, I love
Pat,
it.
whatever you're thinking, I feel the same exact thing.
Yeah,
And,
as an Olympic weightlifter, don't get
Already
me started
connecting
either.
these two.
and with
Yeah.
24
Gregory wants the
kilos,
drama
like
to
24
start right now,
kilos,
He wants more views on the video. Start the drama.
I plead
Gregory
the
knows
fifth.
I'll say it. Gregory knows I will
Keep
say it. I
going.
do not care. I do
Get
not
that
care.
Keep
engagement.
going. Post the views. That's what
So,
we do.
They're seeing like a modern renaissance. I think from like Eric, from Pat, from like Tom DeLuly, who I got the chance to work out with recently. Rugged fitness lifestyle. Like these people that picked up the bells and sort of just like didn't fuck with any of the other like worlds and never really cared. And you're sort of seeing them get like really strong and really big with like mostly bells, sometimes sandbags added in as well. And I think that it's like and maces, it's like it's starting this like new like modern kettlebell renaissance where like everybody's double snatching now like really heavy. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Like everybody's really into thrusters now.
Yeah.
Like it's an interesting like new like world.
It's
that
just
is
like
super
shut
exciting.
up and pick up the weight sort of thing.
Just
Well,
move
it's-
it, right?
Agree.
Yeah. And
Agree.
it's I mean, again, I don't know the worlds that well, right? So you have like competition where it's like here, do 8,000 reps, right? So you obviously can't
Yes,
you can't
do
do that with
8,000.
do that with like 248s, right? It's just not really gonna happen. I'm sure there are people
unless
who
your name
can-
is
Unless
Denisov.
like unless you're
Yeah,
Anthony
Denisov.
Bourdain.
Yeah, probably.
like you're not
yeah.
doing that for 10 minutes, but then you also have like the what's it called? Then you have like kind of the strong first people where it's like, hey, with a 70-pound bell, you can create as much power as you want. It's like, no, you can't.
Overspeeds,
Right. It's like, no, like there's a reason, like what we were talking about. There's a reason Olympic weightlifters can box jump over my face. It's because they're
Right.
snatching 150 kilos. It's not because they just like tried harder
Exactly.
with a 90 kilo.
Exactly. Oh, you're bringing up such a valuable point, brother.
So
It's the Pandora's box has been opened.
Dude, so it was on my mind when we thought about it. So like that is one of like, look, obviously we all love kettlebells and it's obvious they can create power and this and that, but like when you get to the upper echelon, it's like it's not really gonna be the same, right? If you looked at everybody like a certain weight class down, because the big boys can't necessarily jump, but a certain weight class down, just to use Olympic weightlifting in the Olympics, all of those people in the Olympics can jump massively high. They do some jump training, but not at all. But it's because every day they're just with 100, 200 something kilos. And it's not because they're just like grabbing a 32 kilo bell and just being like, let me try harder today. It's just like, doesn't.
And you know when
like
you
that.
see
At
it,
the end of the day,
Pat.
like Eric said, just lift the weight.
Oh, Pat, you're so. I'm sorry for jumping in, man. You're so right, because you see it when the weightlifters crack a record or they beat a record, and then the bar drops and they're like, "Wow,
And they
Yeah,
jump
yeah,
up
yeah.
really high.
Yeah,
bro, where you at?"
Flips after. Yep.
Yeah, like they take off like rockets. And then the first comment, it's always like, that's why I love YouTube. And by the way, that's why I think it's so stupid that Strong First turns off comments. Why are you doing
they do?
this? None of their videos. Why don't you? I love my community. Even the trolls. It's awesome. And you get so much wisdom from, hey, we're close to 90,000 subscribers now. We get so much wisdom. Yeah, close to 100K. We get so much feedback from all around the world. Why should I turn this off? I'm learning so much from these guys. I have old school guys who say, I've lifted bells for 20 years. This is what I learned. Blah, blah, blah. This is so good stuff. But with the weightlifting aspect, they jump like rockets. Great. Why? Because they move such crazy heavy weights with the amount of power where it's like, where do they get it from? And this is exactly my point. You want to build massive strength, massive power. Okay. Power, do some jumping exercises, right? Jump fast, up and down, with weights. And this is what you see in the textbooks of the Russians and probably the strength conditioning stuff. Well, it's the jumps with the kettlebells, with the back squat, with the barbell. Great. You want to get strong? Pick up the barbell. This is the best thing to get as strong as possible. But of course, the kettlebell, I love how you said it, Eric. I say the same. In the recent video, I said the kettlebell is not the best tool, but it is the best generalist tool. That's what it is, right?
Oh, I have a video ready for that too. We're all saying the same shit.
Eric, what were you gonna say? I feel like Eric, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, previously in the conversation we were talking about like how one modality may or may not transfer into helping you with another one. And ironically, you're talking about jump height with weightlifting. They can jump a lot higher because of their skill. So that is an example where it does transfer from one modality to another. But if they did the opposite, where they were just training jumping, just because you get better at jumping doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get better at weightlifting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like overlap
be able to lift a shit ton of weight with a snatch just because you've been practicing jumping. So
I think that comment. Yeah. That comment that I made about if you do a bunch of kettlebell swings, it's not going to necessarily make your 1K ski better. I actually think in terms of things like I train extremely interchangeably. Pretty much every session I do in the gym looks a little differently. I pretty much only believe in movement patterns. I was sandbag benching my 250-pound sandbag the other day, and then I'll bench press 250 or whatever after. You know what I'm saying? I'm a strong believer that
motion.
Exactly, a similar motion. I think what I was saying was when it comes to carryovers and stuff like that a lot of people are doing something if your goal is to be better at a half marathon, it could be the case that if you take somebody, they never ever have done any physical activity, you have them do axe or whatever, kettlebell training mostly for a year and a half or a year, there's a good chance they would be able to run that marathon. Their ankles are going to be beat up, their knees are going to be beat up, but they might be able to do it. I think what's starting to happen is people are sort of taking the kettlebell, and honestly, we're talking shit about Strong First. I'll just keep it running. Especially Strong First are trying to take the kettlebell, and they're trying to make it this tool that you can do anything with. So it's not the best general thing. It's actually the best for everything. Does that make sense? So it's
my alarm bells go off every time I hear someone say this thing is the solution for all things. It happened a lot with the carnivore diet.
Similar.
And it's
red flags. Red flags. When everybody, and I even said this in the review, because in the review, Pavel, and I'm quoting, he says, Axe is flawless. The chosen programming doesn't, chosen programming doesn't need anything to it. They are complete, right? And that's why I added Dr. Mike Israetel in there from Renaissance Periodization, because he recently said in the video something, and I was like, agree. And today a client asked me this. The client was like, hey, I love these sessions, blah, 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 blah. So he was training with Angie, and Angie turned to me and was like, babe, did we ever had somebody who didn't like kettlebells? I said, sure. Sure. Not that directly, but I said, yes, we had. It's a minority, but there are people who joined our program. We worked with them for a couple of weeks, and I don't know what it was, right? It just didn't click, or something was bad, or the kettlebell was she didn't trust me. Who cares? This is normal. When you put a product out there in the world, you will get negative feedback. Matter of fact, I was just when I was running the analytics of Stripe. Stripe is a gateway, credit card gateway. Yep. Right, so I had to run the analytics for my accounting, and then I saw close to 2,000 transactions and 19 refunds. Guess what? This happens. Thank God, because that's what we talked about in the beginning. I want to make sure I have a solid and decent product, so the refunds are not that high. Maybe in B-Shred it's different. I don't know, but this is what it is. You cannot walk around and say this is the best thing. And what sometimes people are missing, like in my case, people be like, okay, Gregory, but listen, a couple of videos ago, you said something different. And I'm like, yes, guess what? I've learned something. Sometimes I'm completely changing my stance, which some people don't like, but hey, I have to. It's just like science, right? You have to adapt your stance, and sometimes I just change a little bit. And one of the major things that I'm changing, which I'm going to use in all of my videos, I'm going to stop using the name Turkish Get Up, and I'm going to give it the name Circus Get Up. That's what it is. It's going to be the Circus Get Up from now on. Is it a cool exercise? Of course it is cool to move. For a beginner, never touch the kettlebell. It's like, ooh, awesome, wow. But doing this stuff where you have the sneaker balancing on your feet, come on, man. You don't have to do it. Just stand up, right? And use an efficient path. Use it with the kettlebell. Awesome. Are there better exercise? exercises? Of course. Carries, like I love what you said, Emilio. I think in patterns. I think in movement. Stop thinking in exercises. Start thinking in hinge, squat, pull. That's what I do as well. Anti-rotation carry. Just have that in your programming and you're solid, right?
Here's sort of my thing, and it's like it's a developing philosophy the more people I train. Like my number one goal is to avoid underloading people. So like if I'm giving somebody a movement that requires a slow progression like that, like a Turkish get up, start with the shoe, then you can use a 12, then finally after like 4 months you can finally fucking use a 24 to do a lunge, which is essentially all the Turkish get up gives you, right? Is a little bit of core work and a lunge. Like why don't I just spend that time getting you up to like an 80 kilo barbell back squat? Like I guarantee you that if I do that and I get your bench to 60 kilos, you can do a Turkish get up with a 24 kilo. So like there is some sort of strong carryover that goes on where like there's primary strength movements and then there's like tertiary or secondary strength movements. And like the Turkish get up, I don't see as like a beneficial enough movement to start that light. Now the opposite would be like a barbell for Pat, like a barbell clean and jerk. Like usually you will start with the PVC pipe. I'm pretty good at them too, not as good as Pat, but I'm decent at them. You know, and then you like learn the regressions, you learn the clean, you learn, et cetera. And it takes a long time. You're not loading it super heavy for a while. But the stimulus that the clean and jerk gives you is so unique and so powerful that it's almost like, of course, you're going to take the time to learn it while also doing your deadlifts, while also doing your dips and your push-ups and your running. You know what I'm saying? So you're developing other skills while you're working on the barbell clean. As opposed to like, if you read Simple and Sinister, Pavel actually, despite saying it's good for sports, like to add on to sports, yeah, it's actually in the strong first like lexicon or literature to like not do anything else until you get to timeless simple, like 32 kilograms swing 100 times, Turkish get up 10 times. Like that's an actual thing. And it's like, that's so much wasted training time. You guys all work with beginners, right?
Yeah.
How fucking long would that take, realistically?
Yeah, forget it. It's used, like you said,
I don't
it's
know
in
if I could
effect.
do it.
No, you could. I promise you could. I like
What's the get up? What is it? 10 on each arm?
no 10% or 5 per side.
You can
if
always
you can't do it,
rest.
I will send
Oh,
you
all right, never
$100 on that.
One side always rest.
You could probably do it unbroken.
Yeah, I mean, my heaviest get up is a 44, and if I would do a little bit of strength training, engaging a couple of, let's say, like a couple of important aspects where I know where my weakness is, I could maybe hit a 48. But the amount of time it takes to go there, I'm wasting time training my other body parts in a sense where I'm like, I love that. For example, what I do right now, I have fallen in love with that training so much, is always Wednesday and Friday. I've stated this on the podcast and I still do it. I love it. Yeah, it's 2 heavy bench presses. So that's 1, boom, 2, boom, with the barbell, racket, stand up, do burpees with pull-ups. Boom, 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 boom. I'm done. I rest. I have every minute on the minute going. That's on odd minutes. On even minutes, I go under the barbell, heavy squat, two squats, rest, pause, hold it, come back, do 5 burpees again, and I do this for 15 rounds. I absolutely love it. And afterwards, I pick up 2 heavy kettlebells, 2 44s, then I do rows, again mixed with burpees. Then I do heavy hang deadlifts. For me, it's pretty heavy with 88 kg with burpees, because here's what I think. I love how you said. I said this. I'm repeating myself. Thinking in movements. The way I think is, I think in terms of being a hunter-gatherer. You have to run, you have to climb, you have to lift heavy, you have to go fast, you have to be quiet, you have to be noisy, you have to go left, you have to go right, you have to be this, you have to be that. So when people tell me, yeah, but when you build strength, right, and then you shouldn't tax your other system, the endurance system, so to speak, because that messes up with your strength, I don't care about that. I don't want to get the strongest. What I want is, I want my nervous system to fry, like, oh my God, that was heavy. And then boom, I'm smashing in some burpees. And my heart rate's like, and I enjoy it. I love it. My body, I love the effects that it has on my body. I'm still getting, since I'm using a lot of kettlebells, I'm still getting some heavy work done, right, with the heavy bench and the heavy squat. And Emilio, 100%. If it is one thing that I've learned on the podcast from talking to so many folks, one of the best exercises to ever do with your clients is squats.
Yep.
The squat beats everything. Or it beats mostly everything.
I would say
And
second to the deadlifts probably in the push.
Yeah. Picking up stuff. How you're right. How important is that? And coming back to what Pavel was doing with Simple and Finisher, what I am assuming is, again, he goes on a psychology route where he knows a lot of people need to be told what they have to do. And hey, I have these military guys right here, right? Military folks in my target audience. So, hey, I'm going to tell them what to do. But a little caveat, since I reach so many people, I think he's an ex-SFG too, reached out to me, which I'm going to have him on a podcast too. He's a 15 or 20 year veteran. And he said, Strong First, when I was in there back in the day, they was trying all the military stuff. And when I came in, actually being from the military, it changed a little bit. Right? Because he was like, the way we do it back there is not how they do it here. And what I sometimes think is you can get lost into marketing where you're saying, okay, this is what the military guys do. This is what the Spetsnaz do. But then you actually look what Spetsnaz do. They probably do some running. They probably do some swimming. They probably do some pumping. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they do some conditioning, but these guys have to be masters with arms. I think that's a completely different ball game. Of course, these guys are fit. I'm not saying that. But, right? This is where I sometimes get hung up a little bit because I understand it's all about marketing, what we mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah. I think most clients, like most people, they want to look good and they want to feel good. And they probably only have like an hour in their days because they're not trained, like their job isn't trained. So they have a job, they have families, and being efficient with your time is extremely important. And like you said, it's like the basics are what you should focus on in that case. And yeah, I think that's why the Turkish getup is maybe not popular in this crowd. It's just not one of the most efficient movements that can achieve that outcome of looking good and feeling good. Even though it has its uses, it's like a nuanced movement that'll get you a very specific result, but it won't get you the most general for the most amount of people. Like the amount of people who are interested in the effects of what the getup can do for you. I don't know. It's not big enough.
Here's like my perspective. Oh, no, you go, Pat. Never mind.
Go ahead. Because
I was gonna say like
slightly make a right turn. So go ahead.
You know what? Fuck it. You just go because I was gonna say something more.
Well, I was gonna say just because I know, Greg, you have like a lot of coaches, and like one of the reasons I don't use it is strictly logistics, right? Like I'm in a gym. There's
space.
Like I'm a big on logistics. It's actually part of why I like using kettlebells. Is like I could take 6 of them, go in the corner with 2 clients, and like bang it out for an hour.
Oh, yes.
And like,
good point.
At least in the gym that I work at, and like this is where Instagram gets like so caught up, and like logistics plays such a big role in like at least for what a lot of other trainers do, right? Where it's like I'm not saying this exercise is bad, but it's just like, I don't do it with this because it's all the way on the other side of the gym or it's in the closet and I don't feel like going to get it. There's so many other things that go into exercise selection besides like, hey, is it a good exercise? Like there's so much more. At least the gym that I'm at, there's like 6 other trainers on the floor. There's a class going on in another room, and there's a class going on, or a CrossFit class going on. It's big enough, and like nothing's like crowded, but it's like at certain times I can't have 2 people laying down on the floor with like a 10-foot radius doing a Turkish getup. I just can't because there's just the space just isn't there. Yeah. Well, that's what 2 people. It's like basically what you need. Yeah. So just like
agree.
It's also super complex, like having to interrupt every step. Oh, is my elbow in the right place? Oh, is my should I pack my lat here? Should it be here? You know what I'm saying? It's like it takes so long, and there's so many things that can go wrong. Like I'm not saying that if somebody's not good at it to not do it. I mean, I never program them really, but like if you have access to it, you can, and you can do it in a session. It's just generally for taking a beginner, like I just don't see a large reason for it, and I've always been confused by. And I came from the CrossFit world, so like. To me, I'd be like, oh, like, I did a Turkish getup my first time with like 32 kilos ever trying it. And I like almost killed myself. I like did like a standing, like, I like had my feet under me and like did a squat with like a windmill. And I was like, oh, hey, I did it. You know what I'm saying? It's that type of thing where if you have enough requisite strength, you could just get good at it and do it. Right. And
like so Eric said too, is most people, I mean, we're seeing clients maybe 2 or 3 times a week. So it's very dependent on the person too. Like I might do it because I'm going to train 6 times a week for an hour. Right. But if I have like Jane Doe coming in who's like 52, doesn't really care that much. She has 3 hours a week. Maybe it's even 2. Am I going to spend 15 minutes doing Turkish get-ups? Like, no. I'm just not. Actually, I just posted on this basically with like super heavy barbell deadlifts, right? It's like that shit takes a while. So like depending on the person, it's not always going to happen. So like again, it's just I'm a big logistics guy, so I bring that up again. It's
What
like
about
there's
mobility
so
stuff?
many things.
Do you guys do a lot of mobility stuff in your sessions?
I don't do as much as I probably should be. I try and be a stickler with like hitting full range in certain things, which doesn't always get it. But that's primarily how I built my mobility. So I'm like slightly biased towards that. Like
Yeah.
I never worked on my squat mobility. I just squatted heavy super low. And like now I can sit down far. So I just like
Yeah.
cool. But also like just to Eric's point again, like I was thinking about this today. It's like I can only do so much, right? Like I can't do all you can't be a master conditioner building as much muscle as possible, get strong, be like not kill yourself. Like there's so many things that I want to do with you, but I only have you for 2 or 3 hours a week.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are you here? You want to feel better, get strong, and like stop not feel old anymore. It's like with basic strength training, I could get most of those done, but I can't spend 20 minutes with mobility, which I would love to do, but it's either not why they're here or a buy-in in a sense.
Yeah.
Real
Yes,
world.
I do.
Yeah.
For mobility, I
Keep-
just do stretching and I try to get full range of motion too. I should probably get more into it though. I know there's a massive community out there for mobility that I
Like
have
range of
not
strength
tapped
and stuff.
into at all.
Yeah.
But you know what
It's
though? Like, and
interesting
I'll say
stuff.
this: it's that let those people be the mobility people, and you just keep getting the people that want the kettlebells. Like
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense.
I've found myself trying to spread way too thin sometimes, and that's why
Oh, 100%.
that's why I try not to do too much in my session. Like I'm good at getting people strong. I
Yeah.
do it without killing them because they're all like 50, and we're gonna do
Yeah.
it in a pretty
Yeah,
we're gonna
that's
do
And
it in
everyone
a, like,
has, sorry.
yeah. Oh, no, I was gonna say we're gonna do it in a like slightly different way. That's probably a little bit more fun that you've never seen.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna
find
rock
in-
out with that.
In terms of retention too, and this is like a funny, and I think people might relate to this because we all do in-person sessions. There are certain things that you do that are conducive to conversation, which makes the person want to stay with you, and things that are not. And like mobility is just not, right? Like you have somebody do like barbell bench into like pull-ups while they're resting for 3 minutes. So you get to talk about what the economy looks like and like who's going to vote for who, like in the election. You know what I'm saying? And like if you're doing consistent stretches and you're cueing them through it, it's sort of hard to build that rapport, and it can make sessions feel a little bit awkward.
You're raising an interesting point. I'm the complete opposite, Emilio.
Oh, really? Are
But
you like
I love it.
Do
I
this,
love
do
it.
that?
Not first of all, the stretching and mobility stuff. The kettlebell has improved my mobility to a world where I was typical bodybuilding stiff,
Yeah.
and now I look like a yogi.
Yeah, you're
But that's kettlebells, right? It's full range of motion and all that kind of stuff. And of course, maybe my joints are conducive to this type of work. I might add, but
Dude,
yeah.
Sorry,
Keep going, Eric. Yeah.
you brought up yoga. I didn't do yoga for 3 years. And then I went 2 months ago after doing 80% of my training is kettlebells. And the rest is like calisthenics and like random other stuff. But because of all the unilateral work that's provided with bells, I was looking around the room. I'm not a yogi at all, obviously, right? But I was like stable throughout the
Yeah.
whole hour long of this hot yoga session. Whereas,
Yeah.
3 years ago, I would have been
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah.
And we're talking about carryovers.
Exactly.
There's like this weird carryover because of the unilateral aspect of kettlebell training.
Because
with
you're working
yoga,
single
which
side.
I wasn't as
Yeah.
flexible as the yogis and all the people who go there regularly. But I was impressed with my progress, even having.
But they've
done-
specialized, right? I mean, these guys specialized into mobile,
Yes.
being hypermobile, and maybe even some of the folks have this tendency to be hypermobile, and then they move towards a. I mean, that's funny. Even when you look at the science of muscle fibers, where you can say, hey, you have one group of people that is very dominant with type 1, then the other group of people is probably the endurance guys, and then you have the other guys who are very dominant with type 2A, type 2X. Interesting, the strength guys, but there are hybrid fibers. I didn't know that. So there's fibers who can attach and a little bit morph into one side or the other, which is fascinating. So people gravitate towards what they like. But speaking from this, Eric, same here. I have the mobility and flexibility now that I have. It is kettlebells only. And what I do with our clients is, I've learned it from Steve Cotter. I just go through the joints. I start with the neck, then I go into the shoulders a little bit, then it's T-spine, then it's hips, then it's legs, and it's probably 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Then we jog a little bit. I send them on a treadmill for a couple of minutes, just to fast walking to get the heart rate up, and boom, we're ready. So it's like with explain, and I love what you were saying, Pat. And see, that's I told you guys in the individual podcasts. That's why I like you guys so much, because you bring real world experience to the table. Logistics, time efficiency, working with an older crowd. It's not like in the book. It's a complete different world. The world doesn't match what sometimes people talk on IG or in their books. So when you see that, right? And when I hear that, I immediately resonate, because exactly it's what it is. I think about, okay, wait. We have 5 exercises. If I explain these 5 exercises, now I mix them. Okay, no. Let's take the 5th away. Let's do these 3. Okay. And then what happens in the session? Okay, we start, just before I got started with you guys, we had this one guy, and we're training, boom, boom, boom. And I did clean, squat, press, right? With one side. So what does one of our clients do? His name is Ray. So what does he do? He cleans it and he keeps pressing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Ray, brother, Ray, it's clean. And sometimes I just let it roll. I'm like, come on, who cares, right? Right? Exactly, you're doing this, Pat. Exactly, who cares? You're moving, you're doing a press, it looks great, awesome. And that's what it is with exercise selection and working with people, understanding where they're at. And when it comes to flexibility, with explaining the session, maybe 5 up max of 8 minutes. And then I want to give you the most bang for your buck for what you came here for. Because people don't come here to be maximally flexible and mobile, even though we know some of it is necessary. But working with people for so long, for 7 years experience, maybe for somebody else this is different. Some people are limited, period. Because the joint doesn't allow it. And I had somebody, did you have an accident? No, it just doesn't move. Okay. Yeah. We accept it. We did everything. I tried everything with this guy from the mobility world. I was like, okay, hey, you know what? Are you having pain? No. When we train, does it limit you? No. Maybe certain of movements, maybe your arm is a little bit more in front than in my case. Who cares?
And it's hard to talk about stuff.
And talking about stuff, yeah, here's what I do. I keep the sessions in a way where we keep moving almost continuously throughout the sessions, so that I avoid the talking as much, because I want them to stay focused on the training as much as they can. And then afterwards we can have a little chit chat, or maybe in the beginning. But when they show up, I'm like, guys, you pay so much money. We just raised our prices this year. Yeah. And some of our clients be like, you serious? I'm like, I'm dead serious. Because we offer you value that you won't get anywhere else. I know it for a fact, at least from a huge mile radius. And even if I know folks, Emilio, clients of us, they were like, we're going to New York. I'm like, hey, I can forward you to a coach if you want to train. They're like, oh, we just want to visit the city. I'm like, okay, but hey, I know somebody there, right? I know folks. Right, yeah, I know folks from all around the world, right? So I know from all around. I have this great network where I can forward guys to where I know I can trust these guys.
Yeah.
And then I want to, in the focus, I just want to be in the session, I just want to be as focused as possible, limit the talking, make sure we stay focused on the training. Angel's a little bit different. She's more of a talker, and when she works with the ladies, I hear them, blah, 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 blah. In my case, I'm totally fine. They still get a great workout. Even with the men, she's also more talkative, and I always tell her, I say, babe, listen, I'll let you do your stuff, but maybe you just want to calm it down just a little bit. But I know it's also a trait of your character. Totally fine. Yeah. I talk too. Right? I have the gift of gab. I can't stop talking. But in the session, I'm more like, let's keep it a little down.
Yeah, a lot of the clients, they like to therapize during sessions. Which I have a friend who was a CrossFit coach, and he would train a lot of couples. And they started out together. They started out together, like training together, and over time schedules conflicted, and so it was 1-on-1, and they started telling him about all their problems. So he became this like couples therapist, and eventually they quit. But it's just interesting, the dynamics between coaches and clients.
And just a small point right there, I know this for a fact, when I was working in the gym, in a commercial gym, was the same thing. Like people walking, I'm just pregnant, and I'm not sure about my baby. I'll be like, bro, I'm just your coach. Relax.
Yeah, I know.
But hey, that's reality, so you understand it to a certain extent. But here's what I also did, and I really did this. I was like, listen, I do understand where you're coming from, and I do feel the need to tell you that maybe I have to refer you out to somebody who can really help you in that regard, give you therapy, and maybe treat that symptom that you. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, no,
and
no, no, it's
because
funny, yeah.
and here's because I know my limits, and I want to make it absolutely clear. Listen, I'm your coach. Little bit of therapy, of course, because training is therapy. But as soon as you cross this threshold, hey, I'm not qualified. So
You want to stretch yourself too thin, like Pat was saying.
I think this is where my age comes into play and is very helpful because I'm like, bro, you're like 36. You're going to ask a 26-year-old for advice right now. Like, I think you might want to refer out. I don't know about that one.
There's something you need.
unless they ask about social media, like, hey, bro, how does this Instagram stuff work, yo?
Like, just so you know, I was born when The Lion King came out. You probably shouldn't ask me about this. Like, sorry about that.
There's something unique about when you move your body because it definitely, especially with other people, it makes you much more willing to open up and talk
good
about
point.
things.
Yeah, it's a good
And
point.
so if anyone's wondering about like the relationship between lifting weights and mental health, you're much more willing to discuss certain things if you kill your body.
Wow, and
No,
you're
I've
and
been
you're
told so many things that I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
and you're talking about and you're talking about relationship, Eric. You know what? That immediately pops into my mind. That's why you see trainers, male trainers, exploiting that situation,
Yes.
and then sleeping
Oh,
with
yeah.
every one of their clients. And I'm like, let me tell you one thing, guys. I have done this once in the commercial gym that I was working at. I was making out with one of our clients, or one of the. It wasn't client, it was a member, right?
Yeah.
She gave me hell. And everybody knew it. And everybody knew who there's drama between Gregory and Burr. That really burned me. I was like, I'll never ever do this. Of course, I'm with Angie now. That's something different. Yeah. But I told Angie, I'm telling her all the time, you don't have to be jealous of any other women because I will never in my life again touch or have something with a client. I think as a male, especially as a man, you have to be professional. What I do sometimes when we do stretches, for example, we have at the end of the session, we do the cobra stretch, right chest up, and then we hips go up, you extend your arms, which is such a great stretch for the upper body, right, to open up that area. And when the ladies go down in the position, I always walk sideways. I never look towards them, and I make sure that I keep eye contact. And when I look at their body, I make sure it's in a professional manner that they understand, hey, I want to see how you move. I don't want to see your curves, right? Yeah. So I think this is the most professional approach that you have to have as a coach. And if you're, and especially, I love how you say this, Eric, movement opens up a conversation, and if you can definitely exploit it as a trainer. Most definitely.
I tell people all the, like, for me, I've told this to other trainers too, like being very public and having a long-term girlfriend at this point, we're going on like 6 years, is like the ultimate cheat code, I think, because like in New York City, especially, like a lot of women are looking for training, like more than men, I think. Online, I have a lot of men, but training in person is mostly women. And I found that it like has made it very easy for people to relate and talk to me and connect with me and feel safe because I so openly and freely actually talk about my relationship with my girlfriend and stuff like that. And so it makes people know like, oh, like he's a safe person to be with. And then the second thing that I do is I always, for any client, but especially when I'm with a woman, I always say, because I'm a little bit of a manipulator, like I prefer to like manipulate people into positions and then explain. I'll say, do you mind if I touch you? And I mostly get yeses. But in the times where I get I also have enough experience because I also train not touching people.
Oh, we lost you for a second. It was like when the time was saying no.
I've had clients. So I was saying I have clients say no at times, but I have that excuse, or I have like other options in my back pocket because I also train a lot of children. Like I run a youth strength and conditioning class, and so I need to be able to learn how to manipulate and move people through space without moving them.
Oh man!
And so having both of those options, and so it's like, don't worry. Like if the answer is no, I don't care. Like this is just my preferred way, and we can work together. And I found that has made it feel like a safe environment. I also do mostly small group training. I have a very few like exclusive like one-on-ones that pay a lot of money. But mostly I do small group trainings, and that also helps make the environment more relaxed as well. Because it's like you can be underhanded.
And I have two questions now for the group. First of all, do you think that, because that's a little bit what I tend to believe, gravitate towards, because I rarely touch folks, almost never. Really, in the emergency cases, I'm like, you feel it here, or right with the fist. Never go with the finger. I go with the whole fist, like in the hips or something like this. And I came to the conclusion that if you are a great orator, you have very great conversational skills, and you have great cues, you almost don't need to touch people. There are points where, of course, contact is important and it makes sense, but I see it training a lot of folks online as well. It's like the better your cues are and the more they can visualize the cue. For example, with the hinge, it's like I had this one guy, he goes into the hinge, but the upper back is almost straight, right? So I'm like, listen. Imagine glass of water at your back, lower back, it shouldn't tip. The guy's like, boom. Oh, here you go. Or a ski jumper. Imagine a ski jumper, right? Stuff like this. So do you think it is a valid point to say, hey, the better your cues are, the less you have to touch people? And my second question is, how is the gender differences between all you guys? I mean, Emilio, you already shared yours.
I'll go first because I have to head out, unfortunately. But my biggest thing is I agree with you. I, for some reason, just cannot get people to do the proper hand insertion just through words. And so my manipulation is mostly like repositioning the bell to get them at that, like the 3 points of contact. And, but I agree in general, like the better you are at explaining, the more likely they can do it without you touching them, which is a good trait to have, especially if you're doing online, because you can't physically manipulate them. But yeah, I think there are a few things where it's just like you need to just adjust it a little bit so they can feel it, and then they can do it on their own.
Agree on the hand insertion, yeah. Pat, what's your stance?
I was going to say basically the same thing. I for no specific reason got away from like physically manipulating clients. I'll still do it. I mainly do it. It's funny. We all have like the one thing. I'll do it with like, if they're doing like a lat pull down and their shoulders are like this, I'm like, fucking pull your shoulders down. But like, I'm also like, I'm very fortunate. I'm very close to all of my clients. Like half of my clients were at my wedding. Like they all know my wife. I've been training most of my clients for like 4+ years. So like, if I do need to like touch them, like it's never any like, it has no potential of being weird. But yes, I do remember when I was coming up, I'd be like, can I do this? Do you mind this and that? I just, some people you need to like push them in it just to feel it once. But for the most part, I found that if I like demonstrate it or say a certain way, most people are kind of catch on it. But some people you need to just kind of shove in that into a position sometimes just so they feel it the one time.
One last point if I could make, because I guess I'm like the only person that prefers like a physical manipulation. I usually will explain it and then I will give time and I'll literally let them do it wrong for a while and like give them a little bit of cues. I usually only go to the physical manipulation if it's somebody who very much like doesn't understand how to move their body through space. Like, and I work with a good amount of people like that. For whatever reason, that's the case.
Same here.
Yeah, and then I'll just like adjust their shoulder down and be like, oh shit, like, oh okay. And I think that I feel like I'm a decent orator, but sometimes I just feel like that happens, and that could just be me preferring a physical manipulation. And I think that the one thing I would say is I think that it's good to idealize being able to communicate clearly, like verbally, but at the same time, I'm not totally convinced that it's like better. Like you're a better coach if you don't need to touch the person. Does that make sense? Like I feel like there's excellent.
100%.
You know, I'm not saying
100%.
you guys are coming after me, but that's just my like predilection. That's sort of where I'm thinking. But I know Eric, you need to go, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. I'll let you guys continue the party without me. So,
but one more question before you jump off, Eric. What's the gender differences in your space?
I only teach men, not on purpose.
Ah, interesting.
And you know what's interesting about that too is like I was looking at my Instagram stats, and it's like 90% men, 10% women.
Yes,
just don't like
Really?
Same here. But wait, and let me just because I want to follow up on what you're saying, Eric, because it makes sense because the kettlebell attracts men.
Yeah, because
See, I disagree.
We talked about this last time with like the
Really? In my, I'll need your point now, Pat. But in my case, because I'm so focused on kettlebells on YouTube, it's 90% males, 35 to 45, and then up.
Yeah.
But in the gym, but training, it's 50-50 now.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, multiple points on that. YouTube, I think, attracts men over women.
Yeah, definitely.
That's another point.
And
that's another point.
And also,
but even
like,
in the ads, sorry if I interject, even in the
recommend-
ads and the leads that we're getting, it's a lot of men. But I'm targeting also men.
Yeah, well, a lot of like I think mostly men are. Even if you weren't targeting them, the algorithm would target the men because
yes,
the population that would look and like up fitness stuff online. I think more, and the gym. I wonder if Angie being there helps you, like get the 50-50. right? Because
It's funny. It's funny when she wasn't all in, it was 90% women.
Really?
I believe that completely.
And then we gravitated towards kettlebells, moving a little bit away. Angie moving in more, and then we have more men. But it's like it's hard to tell. I think it has to do with the kettlebell to a certain extent, especially online. But you're laying out great reasons why that might be the case. But in the gym, it's now 50-50.
They're
think-
intimidated by AMG. That's why. Just kidding.
Eric, if you have to go, you can go.
Yeah,
I don't want to keep it too long, but
All right, I'll listen to the rest after.
Hey, thank you so much for joining, man.
talk,
It was
man.
awesome
Yeah,
talk.
thanks for
We got to
Thank you,
repeat
guys.
this. Thank
Hope
you.
we can do this soon. Yeah.
Awesome.
Bye.
So I'll piggybacking off of him. So I think he's right in terms of like men are way more inclined to look up stuff online. Women are way more inclined to get help in person.
Yep.
So that's where I think that's why you see. I mean, my clients are 75% women, 25% men in terms of personal training and like potentially going to a gym and taking classes. Men are more inclined to be like, I saw this guy's post. I'll go try this on my own. So in terms of like training that, I could be completely wrong on this next. I'm definitely right on that, but I could be completely wrong on this next part. I think kettlebells are less intimidating than a barbell, and women tend to gravitate towards them when they start to enjoy maybe lifting a little bit more. Now, I also think the barbell is just, in terms of percentages, obviously more people use barbells and stuff, but I just think like if I gave a woman, and I could be wrong, right? I think most women would feel a little bit more comfortable goblet squatting a 24-kilo kettlebell than trying a back squat.
So here's an interesting perspective I have on this, because the gym that I do all the programming for in Brooklyn, Lapine, is like 90% women. And we have kettlebells, we have landmines, we have barbells, we have like everything except for a cardio machine, which I'm begging him to get. But our demographic is 90% women, is like 90% women. And what I find is, because I actually train the most amount of people there and I write all the programming. Paul does a good amount of training. He does the logistics for the gym. Does that make sense?
The owner?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the owner. So like a lot of people work with me and train with me. And I think that your personality, and this is almost an intangible, will drive people towards certain things. Because I mean, you guys have seen me train. Like I use a blend of modalities like all the time. I have more people asking me when they're ready for the Zercher squat than when they're ready to do a kettlebell swing.
Yeah.
And it's primarily women. Does that make sense? And I think it's because, Gregory, this is like what we were talking about when you were talking about owning the gym or whatever. Like, there is an intangible when you walk into the room and you're guiding somebody that they in some ways want to emulate their coach. And that is a very, like, it's a very interesting phenomenon, because I've taken over the strength program as well at this other gym. And like, it used to be, everybody was like, Zerchers are fucking dumb. Like, why are you doing them? And now everybody's like, when I just program squat, because I never write front squat, back squat, goblet, I write squat 3x5, whatever, RPE 8 or whatever it might be for the strength class. More people are doing Zercher squats despite me never pushing them in class. Do you get what I'm saying?
And
so there's some kind of intangible as a result of your personality. So Pat, maybe it's that they see you training with kettlebells a lot and they're like, oh, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's a little bit of like a causation correlation type thing.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense, because a lot of my clients, like, they say in a similar concept to like your Zerchers, they're like, ooh, I want to swing the heaviest kettlebell that you have, like, or the heaviest sandbag we've got. Like, how do we get there? It's a good point.
Exactly. So it's very interesting. It's very powerful as well.
Wow. Yeah. I think what's interesting to note as well is when we talk about the gender differences, I pay more. We target women 30 plus and men 30 plus, and I pay more per lead with the women, and I pay less with the men. So that's part of the data that shows me that probably because it's a kettlebell is on the image, and that's so funny, by the way. I have an image on the kettlebell on Facebook, right, where I used to advertising. It's me doing a 64-kilo swing. So the kettlebell's at the top, and then at the small side you see the ebook, and I've pulled my pants up, right, because to decrease friction of the fabric. And funny side note, people are always commenting because it looks a little bit funny with the clothes, with the pulled up pants.
Yeah.
And guys be like, hey, what are you wearing? Are you wearing diapers or something, right? And I intentionally now only use that because it works so well. Because the more engagement,
comments.
Yes, and you know what happens when you get more engagement on your ads? Facebook charges you less money.
Yeah.
Right, so I know. Okay, I'm gonna leave that image up. But I think it's a little bit more. It's probably both things. And 100% agree. It's what you are putting at let's say it's what you are demonstrating or what you care about the most. I think it will be the same here. I'd be like, let's do squats. Probably most would pick up a kettlebell, right, for a goblet squat, right?
Exactly.
Because they know we do it so often. They see me do it, and nobody would come to think to pick up a barbell for a back squat because we almost never do it. And I love how you program it. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, why should I write rack squat, goblet squat, front? Let's squat. That's what we do.
Yeah,
right?
I always do that. I write squat or bench, and people will be like, what should I do for bench? And sometimes I'll be like, do you want to use a barbell? And if they say no, I'll be like, grab 2 kettlebells and bench the kettlebells. Like, it doesn't really fucking matter.
It's the movement.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a little more awkward to get it into the rack position and get the hand insertion right with kettlebell bench, but it's still a good movement. I've been training it a lot. So it's the type of thing that it's also like the one thing about that, though, I will say is that it makes it hard to understand the lexicon sometimes of what you write, because like we were talking about with simple and sinister, right? Like sometimes people just like being told do this. And a lot of people that work with me, like in private, like privately or whatever, they're like, "Oh, you just wrote squat. Like, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "Do a squat like that matches the intent." Like, I'm making my first foray. This is way back into the start of our conversation, Gregory, about scaling. Like, people have been asking me enough for general programming. Like, it happens all the time now that I'm actually doing a beta test for it right now. And like the way that I have it is essentially structured like you can use any implement, and I'm giving you tips and stuff and recommendations for the.
It's a great idea, man.
Yeah, and it's working really well. For, like the people are having good results. I see. Beta tests. Yeah.
See, so you're having a inkling of what a high value content offer based on what you do would be. It's like, hey, I do all stuff. I do Zercher. I use sandbags. I use this. I also do kettlebells. Yeah. So let me give you a little program that, right? But that you find that out when you gather more experience. Yeah.
But it's also a live by the sword, die by the sword thing. Like I had somebody originally enroll into the beta test, and he gave me like very harsh feedback about how it was like convoluted and hard to understand and overwhelming. And you know, I can also tell that I'm becoming older and like more mature as a person, because I feel like a younger me would have been very hurt by this comment. Like he was just trying to give honest feedback. And like my initial reaction was like, well, duh, like you see how I train. Like this is of course how I'm going to write it. Like, and I know that it works. It's not that convoluted. You just read the instructions. But in reality, I just told him, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And like I even have as a disclaimer when you sign up for the program, this is not a minimalist program. This is a maximalist program.
See, so like this is how you improve, Emilio.
Exactly.
But I'm sure you got probably 90% positive feedback, and then there's one negative, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, great. Yeah. But the good thing is we learn a little bit more through the negatives, because the negatives will teach you like, hey, convoluted. So you're thinking, be like, oh, let me put up this disclaimer. This wouldn't have happened if the guy wouldn't have told you.
Right? Exactly.
So then what are you exactly? So what are you actually doing? You are refining the product based on the negative feedback to a certain extent, of course, also to positive, because like, hey man, I like this and this is what I like the most. Then you have like 100 people say, this is what I like the most. And you're like, okay, I'm onto something, right? Yeah. This is what people like. And this is where marketing comes into play again, where sometimes it's like people enjoy one particular thing a lot. And you're like, yeah, but that doesn't give them that much benefit. Yeah, but people love it.
Exactly,
and here's what I've learned. This one great quote that I'll always tell myself: you can either be right or you can be rich. Let's not care about the money. I mean, it's not even about the money, but this is human psychology again, right? So we go full circle, where people want something, they gravitate towards it. And now you're like, yeah, but normally based on the science, yeah, but that's what they want. So give them what they need, and then give them what they want, and then give them what they need, right?
That's a great point. It makes perfect sense.
Got to eat your broccoli and cookies. That's what I say.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to do bicep curls and assault bike sprints because you think it's the greatest thing in the world, that's fine. But we got to do our squats and pull-ups first. Or whatever it is.
Exactly, man.
This is me being slightly controversial. I feel like Gregory especially is going to get this. Like a big thing that I've been saying on my like social media, whatever following I have, is like you can chase many rabbits. Like I've been saying that a lot. And I think Gregory knows that, like, who I'm kind of contending with when I say that. It's like, that's a very common thing Dan John says, like, don't chase 2 rabbits. Because, like, I'll often have, like, my clients, like, do handstand push-up progressions, max interval, like, bike sprints, and then, like, max out their Zercher deadlift, like, in the same session. And they just, like, keep getting better without, like, injuries and stuff like that. And sure, none of them are, like, elite. Well, I have a few people that are pretty strong. but like none of them are crazy, but they continuously get better at multiple things. And I very much believe in various training. And so like my big thing is like you can chase many rabbits. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, sort of going to what you said, Pat. Like yeah, you can have your broccoli and your cookie too, and you can be fine.
I'm curious. What's the average age of most of your clients?
So you want to hear something crazy? From fucking 16 to 70, I train a massive demographic. In person, I can specialize a little bit more. It's about 35 to 70, but if you include my youth class, it's obviously kids.
Right.
My online training, which is mostly this philosophy distilled, is probably between 20 to 40.
Okay.
Interesting. Mine is 48.
It's 48.
Yeah.
Yeah, average.
About what mine is too, I'd say. At least for in person.
Yes,
so I think I'm very like, and I don't have a lot of more time, but I think, I mean, as you guys can see, like when I swear a lot, like I'm not very professional, like I talk shit about like stuff very wantonly and freely. And I think that attracts like a particular type of person more than a particular type of age. Like I would say overwhelmingly the people I work with are very highly educated, like have multiple degrees from college or worked in like elite firms. Like they work for like finance or tech or something like that.
Wow.
Or real estate. And so they like distilled information and they like upfront communication.
Wow. You know what I would do if I was in your shoes, Emilio, because that's what we learned doing the Halo strategy is these are clusters and patterns that tell you who your dream avatar is.
I've heard this before. Yeah.
Yes. Because see, again, it's experience. You didn't learn this in school. It's like, hey, these are the guys, right? So how about this? The perfect program for real estate, for realtors who'd like to get into the conversation of something like this, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea. To think about that.
Speak their language. And because while I understand that you can't train everybody to a certain extent, the power is in your dream avatar. Yeah,
it's just like exercise. The more you specialize, the higher the results.
Exactly. And here's what the beautiful thing about this is. Just to end this on this one, because here's what I realized. When you have a target audience that you know exactly who they are and you know exactly their pain points, the marketing writes itself.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could also use that it's basically what creates your content. Anytime you talk to somebody, whatever words they use is the wording you put in your content.
Yeah. Well, have you seen like how long my posts are? Like I write like epics. Like I don't just write like a quick like like I always write like 4-paragraph posts on my Instagram stories or like even
no, what I mean,
Instagram posts.
the wording that you put in there is what those people are saying, not what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like let's say I was training 45-year-old moms who wanted to tone up and lose 10 pounds or lose this
of arm
right?
fat.
I'm not going to say, hey, this is how you tone and do this. But that's what if that was my target audience is going to say.
You speak like this.
I'm going to use it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you give
exactly.
It back to them.
Yes. Yeah. This is.
So I would say, like, let's say with real estate, I would be like, oh, like, let's maximize your return on investment with trading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And write that down, Emilio. Write that down. As soon as you see these patterns and clusters emerge, the age, where they're from, gender, what job they are, the more specific you get, then it's like when you talk to the audience, it's like, oh, this guy's talking to me.
Yeah. It feels special. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
This is the power of connecting with your target audience. And I was like, why is that? Because you truly understand where these people are. And you know what happens? This happens to me so often. They walk in and like, it's exactly how you say it. I was thinking about going under the knife.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. How do I know this? Not from my personal experience, from talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, women in 50s? Yeah, but so many of my friends, I'm like, is that common? Yeah, that's normal. That's normal. Everybody does this. I'm like, what? Yeah, one of my friends, she's just had an appointment with a surgeon. He's a how do you say it? Face beauty
like a beautician or like a plastic surgeon.
Plastic surgeon, yeah. One of the most well-known plastic surgeons. She has to wait 3 years. I'm like, seriously? Well, these guys are overbooked, and it's women in the 40s, 50s, even younger, but 40s, 50s. Why? Biggest pain point. Have experienced the problem so long. Now they want a quick solution.
Yeah.
Right? So this is, you only know this because you talk to your clients and talk to your audience. Or what is the major, and that doesn't even take a lot of time. Number one reason why people don't train, they don't have time.
Yep.
So what do I say? You can get in shape with only 30 minutes of training per week despite being short on time. Oh my God, really? Oh, wow, that's it? I don't have to train 7 days a week, but you guys do. Yeah, but we're cracks. We're
Yeah,
nuts.
We're crazy. Yeah,
We're
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
You don't
We're
have
not
to
like
be
Will.
like, yeah, you can have great. And funny thing is, and I got this on the YouTube comment, because of the offers that we were sending out in January, I'm telling people, hey, listen, and this is the magic number. When you have an annual program with us and you want to stick with the personal training or with the group, right? It's an intense program, high intensity training for high intensity coaching for the whole year. It's 40 sessions. You pay for 40 sessions for the whole year. This is my demographic. Because you said, so I think Eric said this 2 to 3 times per week, or maybe you, Emilio. I'm like, wow, 2 to 3 times, or Pat, I don't know, 2 to 3 times a week. Oh my God. In our case, 85% comes once. They show up
Oh
once.
wow. Well, that's not a lot at all.
That's
For
the
me,
time
it's-
constraint. That's the time constraint of this audience. Okay, so here they come. They come once a day. That's why I'm talking about giving most bang for their buck.
Yeah. It makes
So
sense
it's
then,
these
yeah.
40 sessions, and then people on YouTube be like, yeah, but 40, I mentioned this in the video. So the guy was like, yeah, but 40 sessions, there's no results. Of course you get results. You get results, most definitely, because you're consistent. Yeah, but not like these crazy results. Well, you can if you distill it down a little bit, where they train a little bit more intensively in the first couple of months. Yes, it is possible. But then it's all about maintenance and staying connected to the goal. Yeah, but the results, what kind of results are you expecting then?
I
There were
think the
crazy
thing
results
is-
like you and I get. That's something different, right?
Yeah. I think the thing is, and this needs to be my parting comment because I need to go to the Bronx to go teach my strength class.
Keep going.
What was I going to say? No. I'm not going to lose it like last time, Gregory. So
Keep it,
essentially,
keep it.
there are people like Kettlebell Grant and Sean. This is not me talking shit about them. Who like sell? They essentially just sell simple and sinister. That's pretty much what they do. It's swings and Turkish get-ups, but they offer high accountability. So like you'll pay them a lot of money, like $5,000 for the span of like 2 months or something like that, and the results are absolutely insane because they already have the base for the program, and what they sell is not the base of the program. It's a community of men, like you're saying, over 40. I think that's who they target, and are mostly dads, and they have these crazy results of people dropping like 30 pounds because they have such a strict diet. But the thing is, that environment sort of provides the results. Right. So like it's the type of thing where people might be looking at like Kettlebell Grant or something like that. I'm like, oh, am I going to get the results that Kettlebell Grant is getting from Gregory's program? But you're actually selling something a little bit different. You're selling consistency. You're selling a long-term solution. Whereas I would say they are selling like a more short-term, get ready for your wedding type thing.
Yes,
you know
yes,
what I'm
yes.
saying? And those are both legitimate sales.
Totally
I'm gonna
fine.
say I agree
Totally
more
fine.
with your approach than with theirs, but like they still both work. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
This has been such a pleasure, like such a fun episode. We have to do this again. I wish I could stay longer, and I wish Eric could, but I am needed in the Bronx. So
Yes,
I will
awesome.
see you guys
Go
later.
do your thing.
Check out to the Bronx.
Ciao.
Do your thing.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Awesome. Bye-bye. See, it's so fascinating, man. All these talking points, that you see when you talk to people with real world experience. It's just, it's a blast, man.
It's a different it's so different too, and that's why I like that you have a lot of coaches that follow you, and I like to put information out there for coaches, because what people think training in person is not what it actually is. It's so different. Like, you don't get the people coming in 5 times a week for an hour and 10 minutes. They're gonna eat perfect. Everything's like, I always there's, like I said, the logistics of it. It's like, whoa, why didn't you superset your bench press with the pull-up bars? Like, because the pull-up bars on the other side of the room. That's the only reason, right? You can't take the textbook and bring it into the gym. It just doesn't work.
It's impossible. It maybe gives you some groundwork, right? Where you understand,
Right.
okay, this is how it's supposed to be done. But then you build the experience and you actually find out, wow, okay, so I can apply maybe like 20%, or maybe the training education, right? With the push, pull, squat and everything. But I love what you say. It's the exact opposite. People will always struggle with their diet. People will fail to show up. So we do a lot of outreach where I tell clients, and somebody recently said this. I don't know how it is in your case, but somebody recently said this. She was like, I don't like how you guys follow up with me. And I say, okay, listen, as Angie and me, we always say this. We said, you either communicate or you block me. If you join our program, you have to tell me to stop, or I'll keep pushing you, because you pay me to follow up with you on a regular basis. Where are you? Keep the eyes on the ball. One client, I always say this, keep the eyes on the ball, Alex. He's like, Coach, I'm keeping my eyes on the ball. My reply, then where are you at? Right? So he showed up. So it's a little bit of tough love, right? But it's like, hey, guys, and the struggle with diet, same thing. And I I'm assuming you have the same situation. You explain something when it comes to, let's say, diet, right? They listen. Next week, a couple of days later, they come back. They ask the same question with a different iteration.
Yeah.
And you already answered it. And you got to answer it again.
All the time. All the time. All the time.
We help busy over 40s get in shape in 30 days with only 30 minutes of kettlebell training per week. Grab your free ebook to find out how we do this. Type yes in the comments or check the link in our bio or description.